Chapter 81. The Ultimate Showdown 1. Fry Starlight POV. Damn it, damn it, damn it. I sprinted through the temple corridors, clutching my laptop tightly. My eyes locked onto the number flashing on the screen. Achievement points. 9,650. Disaster. This was a complete disaster. Even after defeating Ghost and taking 750 points from him, it still wasn't enough. I needed 10,000 points, no matter what. And the place I was heading toward was the same one that bastard Kai Luke was targeting. Without anti-magic, he'd erase me from existence. What do I do now? Imperial court soldiers were swarming the temple. Proof that Aegon had already made his move and taken down Kai Luke. Time was slipping through my fingers. I frantically scrolled through the available missions, but the only one left was the kissing mission. I screwed up. I should have just kissed Sansa and gotten it over with. I saved her life. Given her relationship with Fry, she would have forgiven me. I never should have sent her with Ghost. As I rushed through the temple corridors, heading for the destined place, I encountered enemies at every turn. But their advantage had disappeared the moment the Imperial soldiers arrived. A stray fireball nearly took my head off, forcing me to swerve before pushing forward, avoiding fights as much as possible. I had recently come to a realization. I still hesitated when it came to killing. Maybe that made me a hypocrite, but I didn't hate that about myself. Maybe this was the only way to hold onto my humanity until I returned to my world. Perhaps that was why I relied on Ghost to land the final blow against Ferrith back then. Call it cowardice, call it weakness, but this was who I was. As I dashed through battlefield after battlefield, my mind raced, desperately searching for a way to turn the tide. I needed one thing: a girl from the elite class. After all the struggles for power, all the insane hardships I had endured, now, the lips of a single girl were my only salvation. I cursed the system for putting me in this ridiculous situation. I bumped into countless students along the way, but none of them fit the requirement. I thought I was out of luck, but apparently I wasn't. Thanks to Hawkeye scanning the area in a frantic 360-degree sweep, I finally saw her. The card that would completely flip my fate. A grin spread across my face as I dashed toward her. Found you. Elsewhere, in a grander battlefield, a pair of siblings fought against a relentless wave of enemies. They were locked in combat within a spacious hall, slightly larger than the others. Despite their strength, they were gradually being overwhelmed. Emmond, to your right. I know. Emmond swung his sword, channeling the power of light to deflect an attack aimed at his blind spot. Meanwhile, his sister, Clanna Starlight, was locked in battle against 3 opponents at once. Their enemies weren't stronger than them, but the sheer numbers were suffocating. Clanna bit her lip as she cut down the enemy in front of her. They just keep coming. After fighting for hours, she was reaching her limit. And so was Emmond. With their dwindling stamina and limited aura reserves, they couldn't last much longer. She braced herself to fight until her last breath, until she noticed something strange happening. Suddenly, the pressure on them lightened. A disturbance rippled through the enemy ranks. What's going on? Both Clanna and Emmond were stunned as the masked enemies before them started collapsing one by one. What's happening at the rear? One of the masked men shouted, unable to comprehend the situation, but the bodies kept falling. What unsettled their leader the most was the fact that none of the fallen were dead. Whoever was taking them down was eliminating them without killing them. Useless trash. The leader growled, surging backward as arcs of lightning crackled around him. There! Thanks to the masked leader's attack, Clanna and Emmond caught a fleeting glimpse of a black-haired figure. For a moment, he slowed just enough for them to see him, but he was still too fast to make out clearly. In the blink of an eye, the shadowy figure took down the masked leader. Like dominoes, the rest followed, dropping one after another. Clanna squinted, murmuring hesitantly, "Is that Fry?" "Huh." Emmond let out a sharp breath, as if he had just heard the dumbest thing imaginable. But before he could react, the figure appeared behind him. With a single strike, Emin Starlight collapsed, unconscious. Damn it! I mistook him for one of the masked guys. As I stopped using Phantom Step, the truth became clear. The once crowded hall was now completely empty. Only 2 people remained standing. Fry, what are you doing here? Where did you even come from? I shifted my attention back to the girl before me, stepping forward. I came for you. For me? Clana hesitated for a moment, processing my words, then nodded. Thanks for saving us. But why did you attack Emond? Wait, why are you still? She stopped mid-sentence as I closed the distance between us in an instant and grabbed her firmly. Stay still for a moment. Fry, what are yo? It wasn't hard to tell what happened next. Everything I did was automatic. My mind was entirely fixated on the achievement points. I leaned in, pressing my lips against hers. I couldn't even savor the softness of Clana's lips. Anxious thoughts consumed me. Would I earn enough points? The slight tremor in her body, the weak resistance, both confirmed that the task was complete. Without hesitation, I pulled away, ignoring Clana, who now stood frozen, her face burning red, unable to form a single word. I raised my invisible laptop with one hand, eagerly checking the updated numbers. Achievement points, 10050. A triumphant grin spread across my face as I activated Phantom Step. Thanks, Clana. I owe you one. To avoid the inevitable awkwardness that was about to unfold, I disappeared, leaving my cousin in stunned silence. Her first kiss stolen in the most absurd way possible, surrounded by the unconscious bodies of fallen enemies. Now it was time to end this. Lutz. Snow Lionheart POV. Not bad. A boy my age. Wielding this kind of power? I clenched the hilt of my sword so tightly that the veins on my hand bulged like writhing serpents. I had removed my ring. I had unleashed the strongest attack I could muster, and all it had done was shatter his mask and tear part of his clothing. The masked man showed no concern for the chaos raging inside my head. He simply continued, unfazed. My turn. The flames around him roared to life as he prepared to strike. I braced myself for the worst, but just before he could move, a voice rang out from nowhere. Stop. V, withdraw immediately. The order came from an unknown third party, and irritation flickered across the masked man's, V's face. I'm about to kill him. Why retreat now? Kai Luke has been defeated, and besides, you won't be able to control the Moonlight Sword for much longer. As those words fell, droplets of blood trickled from V's hand, the same hand gripping that cursed blade. The eerie silver light slithered into his flesh, devouring even his black flames. Now fully exposed, V's expression darkened further. Kai Luke, useless trash. Hearing those words, I couldn't ignore them. My instincts wouldn't allow it. Beyond the fact that our side had won, this bastard was reaching his limit, too. This fight hadn't been in vain. In that case, Void Step. A collective gasp erupted as I reappeared before him, my sword flashing toward his throat. Snow! I ignored the voices. Right now, nothing else mattered. I just wanted to measure it. The gap. The difference between me and the man standing before me. He saw me coming. That much was clear from the way his body reacted. Tisage, I can still end you, even without the Moonlight Sword. Brat. This time, he blocked my strike with his bare hand, black flames licking at his palm. The cursed blade vanished from his grip, replaced by a standard sword. We clashed in a relentless storm of blows, exchanging dozens of strikes at inhuman speed. Wounds accumulated on my body, yet, unlike before, I was holding my ground. Without that Moonlight Sword, I had a chance, and he knew it too, especially when he saw the students of the elite class charging in, emboldened by the fact that I was matching him. Damn it! Dozens of attacks closed in on him. But then that same gravelly voice returned. Looks like I have to save your sorry ass. I didn't know when. I didn't know how. But the shadow behind V suddenly expanded, swallowing the battlefield in darkness. And from its depths emerged not a man, but a monster, a towering figure, wrapped in pitch-black bandages that completely obscured his massive frame, save for a single eerie horn jutting from his skull. His cold gray eyes swept over the battlefield before he swung a limb the size of a carriage directly at me. I raised my sword to block, but the sickening crack of breaking bones told me everything I needed to know. It was like being crushed beneath a mountain. My vision blurred, the world fracturing into scattered fragments. Struggling against these weaklings? And you call yourself a candidate for dominion? Shut up, Gvardiel. I can handle this myself. Ha! I could let you die. But I won't risk losing the Moonlight Sword. So deal with it. Forcing myself upright amidst the wreckage, I barely steadied my spinning head. I watched as the giant seized V, the shadow beneath them stretching and twisting. Unfortunately, this little party has to end. A savage grin spread across the monstrous man's face. No one dared to move against him. We all understood the sheer danger standing before us. If he wanted us dead, nothing could stop him. He was about to vanish into the darkness. But then, a devastating shockwave erupted across the battlefield. Stop! A strange force rooted the giant in place. Every head instinctively turned, to see a short, white-haired girl stepping forward. Ellen White, the Student Council President. Chapter 82. The Ultimate Showdown 2. At her command, the monstrous man froze, locked in place. And then he laughed. What now? More kids. But Ellen's expression was different. Her face radiated fury. Do you remember me, you son of a bitch? The voice rippled through the air, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Everyone clutched their ears in agony, yet it was pointless. Many collapsed on the spot as Ellen White, consumed by unfiltered rage, unleashed her full power. Despite the sonic devastation, which threatened to tear the place apart, the Black Tower only laughed. Sorry, girl, but I don't even know who you are. His indifferent tone made the very ground beneath Ellen's feet tremble and shatter. Her hand shot forward. Then just die. The next blast of sound could have obliterated steel, yet the man stood there, completely unfazed. Maybe I killed someone close to you once, or something like that. It happens so often. I've stopped keeping track. A black aura seeped from his form as he continued his work, his amusement unchanged. But you should know. His voice dripped with mockery. I don't bother remembering the weak I've killed, so don't take it personally. Ellen trembled with fury, her breath ragged. But before she or the Black Tower could move, no one noticed the shadow tearing through reality itself. Two crescent-shaped scythes sank deep into the giant's chest. A perfectly executed fatal strike. A wound like that should have ended his life. Yet, the Black Tower only laughed harder. Are you sure you wanted to stab me there? The black bandages around his chest peeled away, revealing something horrific. Dark, crater-like holes marred his inhuman flesh, pulsing like living voids. Atlas Umbra, the assassin who had delivered the blow, hesitated. Something was very, very wrong. And by the time he realized it, it was already too late. From those abyssal holes, black spikes erupted, impaling Atlas without mercy, turning him into a lifeless pincushion. No! Ellen's scream pierced the air as the older elite class appeared behind her. The Black Tower tossed Atlas's corpse aside like trash and clenched his fists. We've wasted enough time. A chilling grin spread across his face. So, take this parting gift before I go. Ellen's heart clenched as she saw what he was about to do. Protect the first-year students, she roared. But it was too late. A colossal explosion of darkness erupted beneath the Black Tower's feet. Hundreds of black spikes burst out in all directions, impaling everything in their path. And amidst the chaos, the Black Tower, V, and their entire presence vanished. I couldn't hold on to consciousness any longer as the darkness swallowed me whole. Somewhere else, beneath the temple. Shit. A lone figure staggered through the cold, dimly lit corridor, his breath ragged. A strange force surged within him, mending his wounds bit by bit. But the pain in his body was nothing compared to the rage boiling inside him. Prince Aegon Valyrian. He hissed the name like a curse. I won't forget this. I'll never forget this. Kai Luke looked like a man who had been to hell and back as he stumbled into a forbidden chamber. Everything was ruined. His plans had crumbled. He had been pushed to the edge. And worst of all, the one who had cornered him was just a boy, one who, even if Kai Luke split his own age in half, would still be older than him. A devastating blow to his pride. But this wasn't over. Not yet. That's why he was here. Deep within the temple's lowest level. The core chamber. Ferrith, that worthless piece of trash. Kai Luke muttered, wiping the blood trailing down his lips. If only he had done his job right. We never should have wasted the blood of the higher beings on him. What a joke. Since Ferrith had failed, Kai Luke had to finish this himself. The Sky Dome core held an unimaginable amount of aura, like a nuclear reactor overflowing with raw power. If he tampered with it, the resulting explosion would erase the entire temple from existence. And yet, there were no guards. Something about that felt off. But he couldn't afford to dwell on it. This was his last chance. He stepped into the chamber, muttering under his breath. This is it. Do or die. If he failed here, there would be no mercy waiting for him. Gavid Linman would make sure of that. But as he solidified his plan, his expression froze. Because standing before the glowing blue core was a boy who was barely clinging to life. His body was mutilated, covered in gaping wounds, and surrounded by a pool of his own blood. His long, black hair was matted, tangled, and filthy. His frail form trembled as he slowly turned toward Kai Luke. And when he saw him, his hollow eyes filled with something akin to hope. Professor! His voice cracked, desperate and weak. Professor, please help me. I beg you. Kai Luke's fingers twitched. A magic circle flared to life above his palm. His first instinct was to end this boy immediately. But then, he paused, and thought, where did this boy come from? Did he escape and make it here? Was he hiding? No. If one had made it here, then others could have too. And in his current state, Kai Luke couldn't afford another fight. So, should he kill him? Kai Luke's sharp eyes scanned the boy. Rank, D. Severely injured. Utterly weak. No, he wouldn't kill him. Not yet. Not until he was sure. Maybe this was a trap. Maybe this was why there were no guards. Kai Luke's voice softened, feigning concern. What are you doing here? Are you hurt? Are you alone? The moment he got his answer, he would kill him. Yes, that was the plan. Kai Luke reached out his hand, and the boy, trembling, did the same. Their fingers met. Slowly, silently. At that moment, a knowing smile spread across the young man's face, the smile of a predator who had finally ensnared his prey. Anti-magic. What did you just say? Kai Luke's question barely left his lips before the boy's grip tightened around his wrist with crushing force, threatening to shatter it. Got you. In an instant, he yanked Kai Luke forward and drove a brutal kick into his stomach, forcing the air from his lungs as saliva sprayed from his mouth. You bastard! Kai Luke instinctively tried to activate his magic circle, but for the first time, nothing happened. His expression twisted in shock. Surprised. The boy didn't let him recover. Blow after blow rained down, each punch turning Kai Luke's face into a battered, bloody mess. I'm just getting started. Kai Luke barely recognized Fry Starlight. In truth, even if he tried, he wouldn't be able to recall his face. Fry Starlight had never been someone worth remembering. He wasn't even a name on the list of people to be wary of. Yet now, Kai Luke found himself at the mercy of someone he had dismissed as insignificant, powerless, broken, and beaten after his humiliating defeat at Aegon's hands. And this was only the beginning of his suffering. Chapter 83. An Unexpected Encounter 1. Fry Starlight POV. It's time to act. I gripped a sharp blade, swallowing hard. Let's finish this. Stealing my resolve, I plunged the blade into the right side of my torso. Fresh blood dripped onto the ground. My face remained blank as I inflicted wound after wound upon myself. After everything I endured in the Nightmare Lands, pain of this level was nothing. I knew exactly where to cut to make it look fatal while avoiding my vital organs. I needed to appear broken like a man on the verge of death if I wanted my target to take the bait. Once enough blood had spilled, I took a measured sip of the healing potion I had prepared earlier, just enough to keep myself from passing out, but not enough to close my wounds. Then, I collapsed into the pool of my own blood, rolling in it like a child playing in the snow. Seconds later, I stood up, my body drenched in crimson. I yanked at my hair, making it a tangled mess, then looked myself over. A low chuckle escaped me. I look absolutely wretched. Perfect. Now all that was left was to wait, and to act my part well. I grabbed my laptop for one last check. Abilities: Shadow Adaptation, 07. Anti-Magic, Level 1. Negates magic upon contact. This should do. Let's hope it's enough. 10,000 points gone. Seconds passed. Then minutes. I waited patiently for my prey to step into the trap. Sitting beside that core, which emitted terrifying aura fluctuations, while taking advantage of Aegon, who had driven the guards away. With the guards gone, sneaking in had been easy, and I didn't have to wait long. Footsteps echoed through the hall. The door creaked open, revealing a sharp-featured man. His brown hair swept back, his crimson eyes piercing. "Lutz." I instantly broke into sobs, playing the part of a helpless victim. His gaze sliced through me like knives, peeling away the surface, searching for the truth beneath. He was analyzing the situation. That wasn't good. "Professor, help me, please." I staggered forward and threw myself at him. That should force him to make a decision. I reached out, trembling. Pitiful sight. But inside, every muscle in my body was coiled tight, waiting. Two possibilities. He either takes my hand, or he kills me on the spot. One or the other. I was about to find out. "What are you doing here, boy? Are you alone?" He reached for my hand. Couldn't help it. The grin stretched across my face before I could stop it. Finally, "Anti-magic." I murmured the words, barely audible. His brow furrowed. "What did you just say?" Kai Luke never finished his sentence. A precise strike to his gut forced the air from his lungs, saliva flying from his mouth. I clenched his wrist, nearly crushing the bones, before slamming my foot into his stomach again. The impact should have sent him flying, but I held him in place. His face twisted in shock. He doesn't understand. Why isn't my magic working? I could see the question forming in his eyes. There's plenty more where that came from. My fist, wreathed in darkness, crashed into his face, sending him staggering. "You bastard! What the hell are you?" "Shut up." Another punch, then another. Kai Luke's once proud features crumpled beneath my fists. "Do you even know who I am? Stop this, you arg. Shut your damn mouth." I slammed him against the wall and kept swinging. "You look confused, Kai Luke." His face was swollen now, blood dripping from his nose and lips. "Your magic won't work here. What kind of sea curse is this?" His words slurred, but it didn't matter. 10,000 points. I let the number sink in as I drove my knee into his ribs. "Not to mention the idiotic curse you put on me." He slumped, but I yanked him up by his arm and stomped on his face. "Are you ready to pay your debts?" I gazed down at him, my voice cold. He was no longer the proud mage he once was. Ha! Ha! I don't even know what you're talking about. No need for you to understand." I gripped his face, leaning in close. "Listen carefully. You have something I want. We're gonna play a little game. You will stay silent while I shatter your stupid face. And when you're ready to give it up, only then will you be allowed to speak." I drove my fist into his mouth, silencing him. No talking. Not yet. Even through the swelling and blood, his crimson eyes remained sharp. He still had hope. I'd make sure to take that from him. What followed was an hour of uninterrupted punishment. At some point, Kai Luke's face became unrecognizable, a mess of broken flesh and blood. But I didn't let him die. That would be too easy. Every time he neared unconsciousness, I'd force a few drops of a healing potion down his throat, just enough to keep him conscious. The game had to continue. The scent of blood hung thick in the air. Yet I felt no guilt, no hesitation. Was it because Kai Luke was a terrible person? No, that wasn't it. I simply hated him. I despised him from the moment we met. And he had something I wanted. It was that simple. Hey! And there was no reason to stop now. Believe me, Kai Luke, not even Lindman, not even Astaroth himself can save you now. At those names, for the first time, his face shifted. Not in pain, but in shock. How? Shut up. I slammed his head against the wall again. No talking until you're ready to give me what I want. He let out a choked scream. What do you want? I still had his wrist locked in my grip. I could feel the fragile bones pressing against my palm. I punched him again. That's not the answer I want. Another blow to the face. A kick to the stomach. I don't want questions from you. Come, Valerion. Let's have some fun. I gripped my sword and drove it into his free left hand. I want answers. Kai Luke's screams reverberated through the chamber. I was certain he had tried to unleash his magic 1,000 times by now. Certain he had exhausted every option. But it was pointless. At last, after another hour of relentless beating, I had broken him. Ha ha. Information about the Ultras. I can give you intel. Their plans, huff huff. I grabbed his mouth and forced another healing potion down his throat. It steadied his voice just enough. I can be your spy, make you stronger, offer you. I pressed my foot against his face, silencing him. What use do I have for such nonsense? Information? A spy? The Ultras? None of that matters to me. He trembled at my words. You think the man who completely suppressed your magic, needs someone like you? Then, what do you want? I tapped my finger against his forehead. I want it. That skill. What? I smiled. The skill that's kept you alive until now. The skill that let you defeat foes stronger than you. The skill that made you who you are today. I patted his head gently. The skill you were still trying to use against me just moments ago. At my final words, Kai Luke's spirit shattered completely. I want it. Ascension. Give it to me. From the beginning, I wasn't fighting for the temple. I wasn't fighting for my classmates. All I wanted was to escape this madness. To defeat Snow. To win the Victoriad. To finish that final mission. And to do that, I needed the skill this man possessed. Is that clear? Seeing his trembling hesitation, I sighed and lifted his body again. Looks like we'll need another round. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Please, just stop. Now we're talking. You should have said that from the start and saved us both the trouble. Kai Luke never stood a chance. I had nullified his magic. His demonic contract, the source of his power, was worthless now. He only had 2 skills. Blink. An instant teleportation skill with a cooldown. He had already used it against Aegon earlier, so it was useless now. And his second skill, Ascension. A skill that had done him no good here because I knew exactly how it worked. Within minutes, a strange book materialized in Kai Luke's hands as he forcibly extracted his own skill. Transferring and relinquishing skills was simple. If it weren't, they wouldn't have survived through generations and eras. Letting high-tier skills die with their users would have been a massive loss to humanity. Fortunately, the ancients were wise enough to ensure their transfer. Though, that wisdom had also fueled the rise of skill theft in ancient times. But none of that mattered now. I took the book from Kai Luke's trembling hands. Is that all? Yes, I've given it up. I swear. I nodded. It's fine, I believe you. For the first time since our encounter, relief washed over his battered face. But it quickly twisted into shock, then fear, and finally emptiness. But I gave it to you. I pulled Balerion from his chest. One last glance at his crimson eyes, now lifeless and hollow. Kailuk was dead. Sorry, but you saw too much. I never intended to let you leave here alive. Chapter 84. An Unexpected Encounter. 2. Taking a deep breath, I stepped away from his corpse. Now that the adrenaline had worn off, my senses were slowly returning. I pushed down any lingering emotions, focusing solely on the book in my hands. All of this, for you. I flipped through its pages. Ascension S-Class Skill. A simple skill with devastating effects. It places the user into a state of heightened awareness, what athletes call the zone. For the duration of its activation, the user's body surpasses 100% of its normal capacity while maintaining absolute mental clarity. All unnecessary emotions and thoughts are suppressed, ensuring the most optimal course of action. The strain on the mind is immense, so prolonged use is not advised. The transfer was complete. My first S-Class skill. I was beyond thrilled to have it. Not only was it invaluable for combat and strategy, but it would turn me into the monster I needed to be, unburdened by emotions that would only hold me back. Sigh. At last, it was over. I checked my laptop, pulling up my task list. Main mission. Survive until the end of the invasion. Reward. 1,000 achievement points. Completed. Main mission. Stop the Ultras. Reward. 3,000 achievement points. Completed. Current achievement points. 4050. Yeah, it was done. I let out a dry chuckle as I stared at my achievement points. At least I'm no longer broke. Losing 10,000 points stung, but anti-magic and ascension were well worth the price. That was enough for now. I cast one last glance at the radiant core beside me. Sorry, Aegon. Your plans are ruined this time. This skill was supposed to end up in the prince's hands. And Kailuk was never meant to die here. I cautiously approached the core. If Kailuk had touched it, he would have become Aegon's slave. Injecting his aura into this trap would have been a fate worse than death. Even with my modified hawk's eye, I couldn't see what gift Aegon had left inside this thing for him. A stark reminder to never underestimate that man. Aegon Valerian. I had shattered everything. I had rewritten the story's course entirely. Now, the tale I had once known was spiraling into the unknown more than ever. But I had already made my decision. I didn't care what happened to this world. I didn't belong here, so I wouldn't bother fixing anything. I was lost in my thoughts. I knew I had to leave soon. If I didn't, they would catch me. I was just about to turn and go, but for some reason I froze. A violent pounding echoed in my chest. I barely managed to lift my hand, pressing it against my ribs, feeling the erratic, near-explosive rhythm of my heart. Took me a moment to realize. My hand had been trembling for a while now. What is happening? Everything around me turned gray. A strange color blindness overtook my vision as I reached for my throat. Slowly, I turned toward the source of this unnatural sensation. Huff a huff. I struggled to breathe. And then I saw him. He sat there perfectly still. His face was unscathed, free of any wounds. And in the midst of this suffocating darkness, the only color that remained in my vision were his crimson eyes. Kailuk was staring at me, wearing a regal, unsettling smile. I knew what this was. Fear. A fear unlike anything I had ever experienced. I wasn't stupid. This wasn't Kailuk. Nor was it Astaroth. A rank 19 demon could never do something like this. I barely managed to part my lips. Who are you? Whoever, whatever this entity was, it was death itself. Every bead of sweat rolling down my skin felt like a blade. My heart refused to calm. The few seconds it took for him to respond stretched into eternity. And I wished, desperately, that he hadn't answered at all. Well, asterisk, 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 asterisk. We finally meet. His voice was deep, regal. It didn't just echo in the room. Carved itself into my soul. But the words themselves bore the greatest weight. Did you just say? That name. No one was supposed to know that name. And yet I had just heard it. From the mouth of a dead man. Oh, forgive my rudeness. Or should I call you Fry Starlight now? Huff, huff. My breath grew shallower. The entity before me continued speaking. I never expected to meet the one who created this world. Who created me. Please. You cannot imagine my joy. The very being who forged me. Right here, on a fragile little planet like Earth. Stop. I wish I could come to you now. There's so much I'd like to discuss, but unfortunately, I am bound by many forces. My heart was going to burst. It wanted to flee from my chest. The pressure was so suffocating that I activated Ascension. But it didn't work. It was suppressed. As if it were nothing. I was beginning to understand who was in front of me. And that realization only deepened the madness clawing at my mind. Why aren't you saying anything, Fry Starlight? You shouldn't be here. No, this was merely a faint manifestation of him. His true self was far beyond this place. Far beyond Earth itself. A storm of thoughts raged within me. Fear coiling around my mind. Threatening to devour me whole. He watched me for a moment. As if savoring my unraveling mind. You asked me earlier, who are you? Didn't you? I didn't nod. I didn't shake my head. I only trembled where I stood. Then say my name, Fry Starlight. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Only the chattering of my teeth. Say it. The moment he commanded it, the name was forced from my lips. Agaroth. And with that, the Demon King smiled. That's right. Huff. Huff. I look forward to our next meeting. Huff. Huff. Fry Starlight. Ha-ha-ha-wa-ea. At last I screamed. Because if I didn't, I was going to die. Die from fear alone. I couldn't control myself anymore. I drew Balerion and unleashed a devastating slash. One that carried everything my body could muster. The impact reduced Kai Luke's body to a bloody mist, while the Demon King's presence vanished entirely. Collapsing onto the ground amidst the crimson haze, I fought to suppress the violent tremors shaking my body. Agaroth, the Demon King, Lord of the 72 High Demons. The being I never figured out how to defeat, even as the author who wrote him. He had noticed me. He knew who I was. He knew where I was. A being that should not have appeared at this point in the story. I forced myself to my feet and started running. I have to escape. I have to escape. I have to escape. From this place. From this world. I have to escape. Chapter 85. Perspectives. 1. It is said that when you're on the brink of death, your entire life flashes before your eyes. Time slows down just enough to let you recall things you never thought you'd be able to in that moment. Lara Croft had abandoned her elegant bow, clutching snow tightly as pitch-black spikes reflected in her pupils, expanding ever so slowly. Overwhelming attack. Immense power. That attack was the very definition of chaos. Black spikes tearing through everything in their path at random. The elites, led by Ellen, desperately tried to salvage whatever they could. But no matter what, it seemed her story was fated to end here. The girl shut her eyes, bracing herself for the moment those shadowy spikes would pierce her frail body. Yet, no matter how long she waited, that moment never came. Instead, what she felt was an eerie cold that sent shivers down her spine. She opened her eyes to a surreal sight. The black spikes that had threatened to obliterate everything were now locked in a stalemate against crystalline ice formations, shaped like towering mountain peaks. Black and sky blue clashed midair, neither yielding to the other. Slowly, Lara turned toward the source of this power. And who else could it be? Ceres Moonlight stood with unwavering intensity, her glowing eyes radiating power. She looked even paler than usual, like a ghost in a white field. Ceres, you how? Ceres remained silent in response to Lara's question. She wasn't the only one shocked. Every elite, Every classmate in the elite division wore the same expression of disbelief. That girl. She stopped Gavardiol's attack? Ellen muttered under her breath. She had been moments away from using everything she had to save the others, but Saris beat her to it. Incredible. Danzo tapped the ice before him, sensing its sheer solidity. This thing, it doesn't seem easy to break. You're telling me that girl launched an attack like this? Ragnar's gaze sharpened as he stared at Saris. Then why didn't she do something from the start? His words spread through the crowd, drawing their attention to an undeniable fact. That's enough for now. We survived, and that's what matters. The distant sound of Imperial soldiers approaching confirmed that this grueling battle had finally come to an end. It's over. Ellen exhaled in relief, but another voice cut through the air.
No.
It's not over. Yeah. If she could unleash an attack like that, why didn't she do it earlier? If she had, Atlas wouldn't have died. Exactly. Why didn't you save him? Shouts erupted from the senior students of the elite division. Perhaps everything had happened too fast, but losing someone like Atlas wasn't something they could simply accept. He was one of the strongest talents of the temple, the star of the 4th year. Those who couldn't accept his death now turned their blame on Saris, as if she had been obligated to save him from the very beginning. Her classmates said nothing, just as conflicted as the others. Yet, Saris took all those accusing gazes, each filled with different emotions, with calm indifference. The glow surrounding her faded as she spoke in an eerily composed tone. How odd. Are you seniors asking us first years to save you now? Did one person's death make you forget your own weakness, pushing the blame onto me instead? She chuckled coldly before turning away. The ability I just used drains all my strength. I can only use it once. Against an opponent of that level, I never once entertained the delusion that I could defeat him with a single strike. That's why I waited for the right moment, and it came. Her words were so brutally rational that those who had accused her found themselves at a loss for a response. But her condescending attitude did nothing to soothe them, especially after her final remark. You shouldn't be asking me, why didn't you save him? You should be thanking me for saving your sorry ass. You! The situation was about to escalate, but a deep voice echoed through the area, silencing everyone. That's enough. All heads turned toward the source of the voice, and a stranger appeared beside Atlas' lifeless body. Ghost Umbra placed a hand on his older brother's chest, staring at him for a long moment. Atlas' body was riddled with holes, completely torn apart, his form barely recognizable. Hey you! Ghost called out, his eyes locking onto someone specific. It took her a second to realize he was speaking to her. Me! Ghost nodded before asking, how did he die? Hearing him interrogate her so directly, Ellen frowned. And who are you? The boy before her was absurdly blunt. He had appeared out of nowhere and immediately started questioning her. But his next words softened her expression. Ghost Umbra, his younger brother. Oh. Ellen froze before answering hesitantly.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't. There's no need to apologize. Just answer my question. Despite his harsh tone, Ellen White complied. She told him everything, how she had failed to stop Gavardiol, how Atlas had fallen. In the end, Ghost simply nodded and lifted Atlas' body. As an assassin, revealing yourself from the start, shoving your head into the beast's mouth, you used yourself as a shield for others, when they should have been shielding you. As an assassin, you were a failure, a disgrace to the Umbra name. Silence fell as everyone watched Ghost carry the cold, lifeless body away. A strange light flickered within Ghost's eyes as he whispered beside his fallen brother's ear. I'll do what you failed to do. I'll finish the mission you couldn't. That day, an assassin found a new purpose. Sansa Valyrian POV. Are you all right, Your Highness? I'm fine. There are plenty of others who need your attention more than I do. Instead of asking me the same question 100 times, you should go help the other students. At my sharp response, Oliver Kahn let out a quiet sigh before turning toward the ruined temple. If only I had arrived a little earlier. No one could tell what kind of expression he was making. Beneath that white mask of his, only his blue eyes could be seen at times. With his long white hair and perfectly sculpted physique, he stood out wherever he went. If only he had arrived sooner. No. If I had been more aware of my surroundings, if I hadn't underestimated the situation back then, if I had been a competent princess, maybe, just maybe, I could have minimized the damage. I hugged myself under the cloak I'd been given, my mind replaying everything that had happened. Ghost had left me here not long ago before returning to battle. Fry had also gone off somewhere earlier. They were all fighting, and yet here I was, sitting uselessly, unable to do anything. Your Highness. Just Sansa. Ahem. Lady Sansa, what exactly happened? Did you and Mist Sun defeat one of the high contract holders? Did you, by any chance, use that POW? Stop, Oliver. I sighed in frustration at his last question. I didn't. It wasn't just me and Ghost there. Fry Starlight helped us too. Somehow we managed to win, by making it a 3-on-1. Fry Starlight. I gave a silent nod, making it clear that I had no intention of discussing the matter further. Oliver Khan's silence proved that my last words were difficult to believe. He had seen Ferrith's corpse. A man like Oliver, someone at the level of a Guardian Master, could still gauge Ferrith's strength even in death. That's why my words didn't make sense to him. Maybe he thought that I had used that power to defeat Ferrith. But he hadn't seen what I saw. Fry. Chapter 86. Perspectives. 2. Fry. He appeared out of nowhere, standing before Ferrith without the slightest trace of fear. At first, the very thought of him fighting Ferrith terrified me. I could already picture the moment Ferrith would kill him. That's why I begged him to run. But what happened next was beyond my wildest imagination. Everything changed the moment he drew that sword. That chilling coldness, that overwhelming pressure. It was as if he had become someone else entirely. He faced Ferrith, a monster whose power had grown exponentially, 1-on-1. In that moment, he surpassed even first-rank Snow Lionheart, stronger than most second- and third-year students. From the very beginning, he had the upper hand. Even when he was suppressed, even after enduring countless wounds, his stance never wavered. It was as if everything was moving according to his rhythm, from start to finish. Ferrith was dancing in the palm of his hand. The Fry I saw that day was not the Fry I knew. It was as if he was someone else entirely. I remained lost in thought until Oliver's voice pulled me back. Your Highness? Did you say something? Nothing. Let's go. There's no reason to stay here any longer. The Ultras had been completely wiped out. As he said, there was nothing left for us here. I climbed into the carriage that had been prepared for me and sat in silence. What do I do now? I cast a deep look at my reflection in the carriage window. 2 golden eyes stared back at me, but within them lurked a darkness no one else could see. Yet I knew it was there. Ever since Fry saved me, since the battle against Ferrith, it had started to return. Those buried memories. Fry Starlight's POV. Hey kid, what the hell are you doing here? Are you? I knocked an Imperial soldier to the ground, my face blank as I continued walking through the temple grounds. The wounds I had inflicted upon myself throbbed relentlessly, but I wasn't in a state to acknowledge them. Right now, what I wanted most was to grab the heaviest rock I could find and smash it against my head. Anything to silence the war raging inside my mind. For the first time since entering this world, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. Agaroth, the final boss, has appeared out of nowhere and shaken everything. He knows who I am. He knows I entered this world. How? This was different from the Mist Stalker ability to summon my buried memories against me. He knows my name. He knows that I created this world. I never wrote anything about that. I no longer knew anything anymore. Too many questions swirled in my mind, questions with no answers. And I knew that the only one who could answer them was Agaroth himself. No, he wasn't the only one. There was another entity hiding within that laptop. A being I was certain could tell me everything. But he wouldn't give me any answers. Everything had changed now. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to focus. No, nothing has changed. All I had to do was leave this world. That was it. When the Demon King descended, he would find nothing, because I would be long gone by then. I still had time. Agaroth wouldn't be able to descend to Earth anytime soon, thanks to the forces binding him. That meant I had to end this quickly. Win the Victoriad, then leave this damned world. Nothing had changed. I had simply gained another reason to leave. Beyond the inevitable descent of the Demon King, everything had gone according to plan. I had obtained ascension and prevented the temple's destruction. Everything should be fine now. I had averted the future shown to me by the visions, keeping the temple alive. Then suddenly a crucial realization struck me. Wait! The first vision I saw. That vision had shown the temple half destroyed. At first, I thought it had been caused by the explosion of the celestial core. But that wasn't possible. The explosion would have erased the temple completely, along with a portion of the surrounding area. Then what future did that vision show me? How was half the temple destroyed? At that moment, another unanswered question surfaced. Deep within the temple, before the celestial core, a figure knelt, running his fingers over the blood-soaked ground. It was cold, which meant that whatever had happened here had occurred some time ago. My lord, this is Kai Luke's corpse, or rather what remained of it. Only shattered fragments of his body lay scattered across the floor. Surrounded by the knights of the Round Table, Aegon stood motionless, staring down at the scene before him. Whoever had done this had slaughtered Kai Luke with unimaginable brutality. The knights around him shifted uneasily. Aegon's expression was terrifying. That face, those features, they were the true ones he hid behind his ever-present smile. Without hesitation, he crushed what remained of Kai Luke's head beneath his foot, veins bulging along his hand. For the first time, his plans had been ruined. And worse yet, the one who did it was an unknown variable. Very good. Aegon chuckled, covering his mouth. This is better. Much better. An anomaly beyond my calculations. A rogue chess piece. Let's see how long it takes for me to drag you out of your hole. Whoever this X was, the one who had destroyed my plans in the end, I look forward to crushing you. Well, this turned out better than I expected. Standing atop a cliff overlooking a massive complex, an elderly man with a towering, muscular physique and long gray hair gazed into the distance. His white eyes were locked onto the temple that had just emerged from catastrophe. The night was eerily silent, until the blue beam that had descended from the sky moments ago shattered the tranquility. From within the lingering dust and debris, a masked man emerged. Oliver Kahn looked unsettled. Ha! Isn't this the Grand Warden himself? Oliver ignored the remark. His voice was firm as he posed the question that weighed on his mind. Bloodmater, what is the meaning of this? Why are you here? Oliver Kahn was among the elite and SS-ranked warrior. When he had first arrived at the temple grounds, he had vaguely sensed an overwhelmingly powerful aura in the distance. At the time, he couldn't recognize it. After ensuring the princess's safety, he had come here, fully prepared for a decisive battle, only to discover that the man standing before him was none other than Raphael Bloodmater. Hearing Oliver's question, the old man clasped his hands behind his back and answered with an air of nonchalance. What an odd question. Why am I here? Well, as the director of this entire place, isn't it only natural that I be nearby? The cryptic response only deepened Oliver's confusion. How long have you been here? Oliver demanded. Why didn't you show yourself while the temple was on the brink of destruction? The pieces were beginning to fit together in his mind. The one who had uncovered Kai Luke's plot and turned it against him was none other than Prince Aegon Valerian. At first, Oliver had wondered, could the prince have discovered something that even the director himself did not know? If it had happened elsewhere in the Empire, perhaps. But inside the temple? A place that Bloodmater himself had called home? That was a different matter entirely. He voiced his thoughts aloud, and the answer came swiftly. There's no need for confusion, Khan. Your instincts are correct. Bloodmater smirked faintly before continuing. I was here from the very beginning. At those words, Oliver Khan's aura exploded, shattering the ground beneath them. What are you implying, Bloodmater? Do you even understand the consequences of what you've just said? Despite the overwhelming pressure, Bloodmater turned his back on Oliver, his gaze fixed once more on the ruined temple. I am fully aware of what happened, and I understand the consequences all too well. As the two men spoke, the final casualty reports from the temple were being compiled. The death toll had climbed into the hundreds, all of them young warriors, ranging from 17 to 22 years old. In other words, they were the future of the Empire. Bloodmater had been present from the very start, aware of everything. Yet, he had chosen not to intervene, leaving the temple to fend for itself. The Empire would not take kindly to this. In fact, this could very well mark the beginning of the temple's downfall. But Bloodmater's eyes saw far beyond the present. Oliver was struggling to process it all. He reached for the twin great daggers strapped to his back. As the Empire's first shield, he could not accept what he had just heard. The only thing stopping him from striking down the man before him was the fact that Bloodmater had once been a comrade, a fellow warrior who had fought by his side. A man the Empire still needed. Bloodmater, sensing Oliver's turmoil, spoke first. His deep voice resonated beside Oliver's ear, almost like a whisper. The temple, ever since this academy was established, we have accepted all kinds of people, scions of great families, heirs to powerful guilds, even the Emperor's own children. He lifted a hand, feeling the wind brush against his weathered skin. Every year, those children arrive, carrying their selfish ambitions, dreaming of achieving foolish goals, blind to the truth of this world. They lack responsibility. They have no sense of crisis. They are like carbonated drinks without fizz. His voice grew sharper. And now, war looms closer than ever. Bloodmater. Despite the hardships this world and this empire have endured, these children still naively believe they will be saved when the time comes. What are you? I'll tell you why, Oliver. Bloodmater's voice turned cold. Because they are peaceful people. Peace is wonderful. It's what we all once longed for. But it has made us weak. Everyone has grown complacent in their comfortable lives. Far from the battlefield. Far from death. Something had to change. He let out a breath. And it was far easier than I expected. Oliver could listen no longer. His grip tightened around his daggers, veins bulging from his fists. Change what, exactly? Hundreds have died. They would have died in the war regardless. Bloodmater's voice rose, the weight of his words pressing down like a storm. They were meant to lead the next war. Yes, many perished, and yes, the temple will never return to what it once was. But on the other hand, there are survivors. This crisis has forced us to recognize the true talents among us, the ones who will stand at the forefront in the days to come. They now understand the scale of the threat we face. They have walked through hell and emerged as warriors. Oliver muttered under his breath. We've lost invaluable fighters. Choupo-Moting, Beck Ryan, countless others. Bloodmater's reply was simple. Victory does not come without sacrifice. In that moment, Oliver's gaze sharpened. Then you'd best be ready to pay the price. The old man nodded, as if he had expected nothing less. I have no intention of resisting. Someone's hands had to get dirty if we were to survive. I chose to be that person, and I intend to see it through to the end. Raphael Bloodmater, Oliver declared, his voice heavy with finality. By the authority granted to me by Emperor Mikar Valerian, I hereby place you under arrest for treason. Your titles and achievements are revoked, and you will stand before the Emperor to receive your sentence. Chains of pure blue aura materialized, binding Bloodmater completely. The man glanced down at his restraints before nodding in quiet acceptance. Let's hope the next director does a better job than I did. Oliver was about to move when a voice called out from behind. Stop. If you're taking him, then you'll have to take me as well. He turned sharply, his eyes widening in shock. Draped in a flowing crimson robe, wearing a golden helmet, a woman stood before him. Her right arm was covered in a shimmering gold substance, pulsating with a terrifying aura. Milena! Oliver muttered her name, while Bloodmater simply observed. Milena Maiden, the deputy director and wielder of the greatsword Claymore. Oliver instinctively raised his guard. Had Bloodmater resisted, their battle would have been a 50-50 gamble. But now, with Milena, a fellow SS-ranked warrior, involved, his chances had dropped to 0. Fortunately, she hadn't drawn her sword. That, at least, was a good sign. This is nonsense. She knows nothing about what I did, Bloodmater scoffed. Milena's orange-hued eyes glowed beneath her helmet. He never told me anything directly, but I knew something was coming when he kept sending me away. I didn't expect it to be on this scale, but I ignored it. I trusted him. Gold erupted from her arm, shifting into a slender blade over 2.5 meters long. As she raised Claymore, Oliver drew his daggers in response. But her killing intent was not directed at him. It was aimed at Bloodmater. I want to cut you down where you stand, then die alongside you. But I am not the one who should pass judgment. Her voice trembled with emotion. You dragged me into this crime. You made me lose the comrades I once fought alongside. So I will share this sin, and make sure you face justice. Bloodmater smiled faintly. Despite the deep sense of betrayal from the man she had followed for so long, Milena couldn't bring herself to strike him down. As her killing intent faded, the towering golden sword seamlessly reverted to its original form, her golden arm. Oliver let out a heavy sigh, summoning another set of chains to restrain Milena as well. Everything that had unfolded today was simply overwhelming. That night, chaos consumed the Imperial Palace as Oliver Kahn returned, bringing with him 2 of the Empire's most formidable warriors in chains. Chapter 87, The Next Step. Snow Lionheart's POV. What's going on? In an instant, I found myself standing in a strange place. A massive palace, built entirely of pristine white marble. I was floating, weightless. It didn't take long for me to realize I was in a spiritual form, unable to touch anything around me. Wasn't I just fighting? Didn't that bastard Gvardiel send me flying? Is this a dream? Memories surged back, one after another, igniting a burning frustration inside me. I had removed the ring, fought with all 6 of my elements, and even wielded the 3rd sword, Dimensional Severer. Yet, despite all of that, I lost. A crushing, humiliating defeat. And worst of all, I lost to someone from my own generation. I had been arrogant, blinded by my own insignificant strength, foolishly believing I was at the top. Regret, anger, they swirled inside me like a storm. I studied my ethereal body, vowing to myself, I will never make the same mistakes again. Then it hit me, this damn dream was still going. Where am I? As if in response, reality twisted. The next thing I knew, I was standing in a vast training ground. And he was there. The figure stood tall, unshaken. His overwhelming aura blurred his features, making it impossible to see his face. For some reason, my knees threatened to buckle before him. A strange feeling stirred within me, nostalgia, belonging. Who are you? I asked cautiously. He didn't answer. Instead, he simply raised a hand, summoning a sword unlike any I had ever seen. With both hands, he gripped it tightly, then unleashed a strike of utter devastation. 4th sword, World Severer. A cataclysmic force erased everything, swallowing me whole, flinging me back into reality. Gasp! Gasp! My eyes shot open as my chest heaved violently, my breathing ragged and unsteady. I was lying in what looked like a hospital room, surrounded by medical equipment. With a surge of energy, I sat up abruptly, my eyes widening. I could feel it, light radiating from my body. The rush of power, the black impurities seeping from my pores. I'm about to break through to Class C, but right now I didn't care about that. All I could think about was that strike. Fourth sword, World Severer. I felt an overwhelming urge to rush to the training arena, seize my sword, and start practicing immediately. Elsewhere, in a completely different place, the elite students remained within the temple, ordered to stay in their designated quarters. At the center of it all, the elite student council president worked tirelessly, organizing and directing everyone. The exhaustion was evident in the dark circles beneath her eyes. Ellen had fought relentlessly inside the temple, first against the strongest Ultras Awakeners, then against Gvardiel with every ounce of strength she had left. And from that moment on, she had taken charge. But her body had reached its limit. Ellen, that's enough. You've done more than enough. A soft hand rested gently on Ellen's back, and in an instant, holy energy seeped into her, easing her exhaustion. Ellen forced a weary smile as she turned around. Uriel. Her golden hair shimmered under the dim lights, her piercing blue eyes filled with quiet concern. Uriel, thank you. There's no need. This is the least I can do. Uriel, the church's saint candidate, had saved countless lives today. It was said that as long as you were still breathing, she could bring you back from any injury. Without her, the death toll would have surpassed 1,000 by now. The temple was filled with heroes, warriors who had fought with everything they had. Now they assessed the damage, tending to the wounded. Don't blame yourself, Ellen. One day, we'll bring him down. It was obvious who she was talking about. Gvardiel. That monster. A painful memory flashed in Ellen's mind. The day he destroyed the only place she had ever called home. 2 years ago, she had begun her hunt, chasing him relentlessly, seeking revenge. But the closer she got, the more she realized a terrifying truth. Ellen shook her head at Uriel's words. You don't understand, Uriel. That thing must die, no matter the cost. Uriel nodded, her expression darkening. You're right. Someone that powerful is too dangerous to be left alive. Ellen let out a slow breath. He's from our generation, Uriel. Those words made Uriel's eyes widen in shock. Someone our age, that powerful? That was the horrifying truth. Gvardiel was still in his early 20s, meaning he still had room to grow. If we allow him to grow even further, we may be looking at a monster stronger than the Four Lords. Or worse, the next Dragoth. They exchanged a knowing glance. Neither of them said it out loud, but they both understood. Their lives had just taken a dangerous turn. Fry Starlight's POV. Name, Fry Starlight, Dual Soul. Class, Swordsman. Talent, S. Current rank, D+. Strength, D. Speed, C.
Agility, D. Endurance, D. Aura, SSS.
Magic. Swordsmanship level 3, limit broken. User can now reach level 7. Talents. Swordsmanship, aura manipulation, poison immunity, combat style, 10,000 steps of shadow. Skills. Hawk's Eye rank A. Phantom Steps, rank A. Seduction, rank D. Ascension rank S. Abilities. Shadow Adaptation 07. Anti-Magic level 1. Achievement points, 50. Systems note. A frog daring to defy the heavens. For 1,000 damn points, I was this close to punching my screen. The damn system had just swallowed 4,000 points to upgrade my talent from A to S. The worst part? This greedy bastard was only going to demand more from me in the future. But with my breakthrough to Class C approaching, I had no choice. I needed to push my limits. Still, the price had been brutal. And now, I had only 50 achievement points left. Frustrated, I exhaled sharply, trying to decide my next move. Then, my eyes landed on a particular line in my status window. A small smirk tugged at my lips. So you're still here. Fry Starlight Dual Soul. Dual Soul? What does that even mean? Fry? I feel like I'm reaching my limit here. Every single day since I arrived in this world, I've been waiting for you to make a move. Every time I see those two words dual soul beside my name, I feel like my body isn't truly mine, as if someone else is sharing everything with me. My senses, my emotions, my very existence. To be honest, I don't know how I'll deal with you if you ever return. What will I do if my body is simply taken away from me? The thought alone has been tormenting me for a while now. Yet, no matter how much time passes, you haven't appeared. And so, all I can do is wait as well. I shut down my laptop and scanned my room with a quiet sigh. It was peaceful here. Chapter 88. The Story of an Old Man. Days passed, one after another. I was still inside the temple at the administration's request. But aside from me and the other elites, everyone else had already been dismissed. So I decided to take the chance to explore the now empty temple. The elite hall was still somewhat lively, with the student council struggling to maintain order. It was a difficult task. Many wanted to return home already. Honestly, it was surprising that this many had even stayed. Of course, I didn't care. I left immediately. The first thing that greeted me was the elite academy's garden, now completely ruined. The once vibrant greenery and multicolored flowers that had adorned this place were nowhere to be seen. All that remained was scorched, barren land. No matter where I went, all I found was more and more destruction. I got lost in my thoughts for a while. The temple had suffered not just physical devastation but also a severe blow to its reputation. Soon, the ruling powers would turn to Bloodmater and use him as a scapegoat, placing all the blame on him. And that plan would work perfectly. Bloodmater. I thought of that old man with his radical ideals. What he did was sheer madness. Regardless of his motives, he had caused the deaths of students who had yet to even take their first steps in this temple. 876 to 430. That was the final toll of the invasion. 876 students had perished. Meanwhile, the temple had managed to eliminate 430 ultras and traitors. These numbers weren't entirely accurate, but they were close. And that wasn't even accounting for the wounded, those who would never be able to fight again. What a crime you've committed, Raphael Bloodmater. But I knew. As someone who had knowledge of this world's future, I could say this with certainty. He wasn't wrong. Bloodmater, the worst is yet to come. The blood spilled here was merely a drop in the ocean compared to what would soon follow. These thoughts consumed me. I had been getting lost in my own mind more often lately. So much so that I only just realized I had wandered into an entirely different place. Seeing the destruction around me, I suddenly remembered something important. Wait, Shaheen. Panic surged through me as I sprinted toward the food district. I hadn't thought about it until now, but the invasion had affected the entire temple. And now, I remembered that old man I had spent countless hours with here. Damn it! You better not have gotten hurt, old man. A few minutes later, I was standing before the familiar place, but I couldn't stomach what I saw. That magnificent tent, reminiscent of a circus canopy, the gaudy lights that had once given it a unique charm, all of it had been destroyed. They had torn everything apart, reducing it to scattered, broken fragments. No way! I stepped forward, my footsteps heavy, gazing at the ruins before me. And then I saw something worse. Scattered bloodstains across the debris. Is he dead? A bitter feeling welled up inside me. He was just a senile old man who had reminded me of something I had long forgotten. A simple man who had helped me rediscover a sliver of the humanity I thought I had lost. Just another character in this damned world. But still, I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept that he was gone. Just as I reached a dead end in my thoughts, I heard footsteps behind me. Hey kid, what are you doing there? The place is wrecked, so there's no service today. That voice, that familiar tone. I turned immediately, and there he was, a short, muscular old man standing in his usual white apron, his arms and chest exposed. I instinctively placed a hand over my face, a smile forming on its own. You're still alive, I muttered without thinking. On the other hand, Oh, it's you, Fry. Don't scare me like that. I didn't recognize you for a second. That was strange. The moment I saw him alive, all those troublesome emotions just vanished, as if by magic. I chuckled at myself, realizing how ridiculous I was being. I really had gotten soft. I waved at Shaheen with a grin. Well, I can't believe you're still breathing, you senile old man. How the hell did you survive? Shaheen's expression shifted in an instant. He furrowed his brows and thumped his chest.
Foolish brat.
Do you have any idea how long I've been here? I've survived more than all the idiots in this place combined. He closed the distance between us and jabbed a finger into my chest. Besides, look at yourself. How the hell did you make it with that scrawny body? You're softer than my kids. This old man really was something else. Haha, I'm stronger than I look, Shaheen. I could take 10 of you with one hand. His expression darkened instantly. You can take my ass, you little punk. Get over here. I'll teach you a lesson myself. What followed was a full hour of messing around with Shaheen in the middle of the wreckage. Arm wrestling, tests of strength, and all sorts of dumb games that should never happen between two people with such a ridiculous age gap. Even if Shaheen split his age into 3, he'd still be older than me. But none of this changed the way I treated him. If anything, I found his strange belief that strength was all about muscles rather amusing. After a while, Shaheen gestured for me to follow him. Come, Fry. Where to? Without a care, he simply started walking away. Since you're already here, I assume you're looking for a meal. Am I wrong? His question made me hesitate before responding. Well, you're not wrong, but your restaurant is completely destroyed. TSK. How many times must I remind you of your ignorance? As we stepped through the back entrance of the ruined tent, I was surprised to see a small stall set up beside it. Before I could say anything, Shaheen walked inside, laughing loudly. Haha, discipline and perseverance. Give me the ingredients, and I'll cook even in nightmare lands if I have to. I'm surprised you're still willing to work here after everything that happened. He paid no mind to my remark and was already preparing the ingredients. The usual, right? Seeing him ignore my words, I simply nodded. In the end, I found myself having a meal with the old man again, chatting like nothing had changed. But as time passed, our conversation grew quieter, and eventually, silence settled between us. We both drifted into our own thoughts. Then, out of nowhere, Shaheen spoke, his expression unlike anything I had seen before. Tell me, Fry, do you remember when you jokingly asked if I had a daughter, saying you wanted to marry her? I blinked, caught off guard. His face was too serious for me to take it lightly. I think I said something like that. It had been nothing more than a passing remark. Shaheen let out a quiet sigh. Well, I did have one, or rather, I used to. A strange feeling crept into my chest. I had a vague idea of where this conversation was going. I quickly muttered, I'm sorry, but he only shook his head. No need. It happened over 20 years ago. I had a daughter, a truly gifted one, far more than I ever deserved. I'm just a cook, the son of a cook. So when she was born with talent that could take her to heights I never even dreamed of, I was happy, and I was terrified. I didn't know why he had chosen this moment of all times to tell me this, but I listened. Shaheen's gaze wandered over the ruined surroundings. I was happy because she was special, but afraid because I knew she would face horrors I couldn't even imagine. Of course, I supported her with everything I had. She made it into the temple, this prestigious institution I never dared to dream of. Since her mother had died the moment she was born, I was all she had. Thanks to her, I was able to move my restaurant here. That way, I could always be by her side. He suddenly sighed before continuing. But nothing lasts forever, does it, Fry? This attack today? It wasn't the first. Something similar happened 20 years ago. Back then, I remember, I found myself cowering in fear while my daughter stood in front of me, protecting me. I, who was supposed to be her shield, hid behind her small, fragile body. when I felt her warm blood spill onto me, when I felt it slowly turn cold, that was when I realized I had lost her. Shaheen's eyes locked onto mine. Fry, earlier, you asked me why I'm still here after everything that happened. Didn't you? I didn't move. I didn't confirm or deny it. I simply remained silent, waiting for him to continue. And he did. With an empty expression, he gathered the dishes. I survived, Fry. I survived that day, and I've kept surviving ever since. And I will continue to survive until the very end. This is my punishment for letting her die. Everyone around me will perish, one after another, but I will remain. As he washed the dishes, he glanced at me from the corner of his eye. But you're different, Fry Starlight. Go back to your family. Leave this cursed place. His words hit me harder than I expected. Without thinking, I muttered, "How?" Shaheen simply laughed. "Did you really think I wouldn't recognize someone as famous as you? In the first place, who else would pay that much gold for a meal like this? Right?" I replied weakly. He caught on to my hesitation immediately. "Fry Starlight, I don't care about the rumors surrounding you. I've dealt with you myself, and I know you're a good person. So don't waste your time. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Cherish the things that matter. And leave. Don't come back. This world has no mercy for anyone." Hearing his final words of advice, I forced a small smile. I stood up, placing a gold coin on the table. "Don't worry, Shaheen. I understand perfectly." Dark mist rose from my body as I turned my back to him. The things that matter to me, the ones I hold dear, my family. If I want to return to them, I have no choice but to keep fighting. And I won't die. I'll stay alive until the very end. So you'll be seeing my face again, Shaheen. With a smirk, I walked away, step by step, leaving him behind. Though I knew he was staring at me, perhaps even overwhelmed by my presence. But I paused for just a moment. "You know, Shaheen, maybe I have no right to say this, but I think your daughter protected you because she loved you just as much as you loved her. She wanted you to live. So live." And with that, I left. At the time, I didn't know that this would be the last time I ever saw the old man. Because by the next day, Shaheen had vanished without a trace. Chapter 89. Unexpected Enemy. Fry Starlight's POV. Huff. I exhaled a deep breath, the heat swirling around me as the sharp scent of sweat filled my nose. 1, 2, 3. With the temple finally empty, I could now wield Valyrian freely. My training had become far more effective since I raised my talent to S rank. My sword made a huge difference as well. 1, 2, 3. Cut through the air itself. Unlike ordinary swords, I could unleash dozens of strikes in mere seconds with Valyrian in my hands. I had intensified my training ever since my battle with Ferrith. That fight had taught me a lot. I couldn't rely solely on my sword. If I wasn't strong myself, it wouldn't make much of a difference. I needed to strengthen my foundation and fully understand my abilities. The power was already inside me. I just had to bring it out. I sank into deep focus as I activated my new ability, Ascension. My expression sharpened, my eyes glowing with a dark violet light. My entire perspective shifted. It felt as if I were looking at my body from a distance, with every unnecessary thought vanishing from my mind. Now all I saw was my sword. My mind focused on executing the most efficient and effective movements possible. That alone elevated my aura control to new heights. I could now draw upon far greater amounts of the aura slumbering within me. Dark aura surged from my blade in powerful waves, carving deep scars into the ground around me. If I had been fighting at 100% before, I was now pushing beyond those limits. Breaking through one's limits, a rare phenomenon that occurred when warriors reached moments of enlightenment in battle or extreme training. But Ascension allowed me to enter that state at will. It was a reminder of just how terrifying this ability was. But nothing came without a price. After just 10 minutes of continuous use, a sharp migraine struck my mind, and droplets of blood splattered onto the ground. I wiped my nose, feeling the warm trickle of blood, and pinched it shut while enduring the pounding pain in my head. Heh, looks like 10 minutes is my limit for now. Any longer and I might pass out. Once again, this proved that my foundation was still too weak. I glanced at the ground beneath me. The scars my strikes had left were deep and crisscrossed chaotically. But this isn't enough. One of the things I realized after my fight with Ferrith, my attacks couldn't kill him. They couldn't even leave a lasting wound. I had to resort to an elaborate plan to outmaneuver him with phantom steps and take him down. If it had been a direct one-on-one, I would have lost. In that case, I need a finisher, a move that lets me unleash everything. A strike capable of ending monsters like Ferrith in a single blow. Fortunately, I already had an idea, but I would need an enormous amount of achievement points to make it a reality. The fourth and final skill, the key to securing my victory in the Victoriad. Be patient, Fry. Be patient. I decided to stop overthinking it for now. There was no point in dwelling on something I couldn't achieve yet. Shaking off those thoughts, my mind wandered elsewhere, toward that old man. Since Shaheen left the temple, I found myself training harder than usual, and getting lost in my thoughts much more often. It had already been a week since the invasion. I headed to my room for a quick shower, then stepped out for a nighttime stroll, hoping to ease the throbbing pain in my head caused by ascension. As I walked through the ruined temple grounds, I reflected on everything that had happened so far. The Empire had already begun to move. After drowning in public backlash and facing the fury of grieving families, they had to act. So, they shifted the blame onto Headmaster Bloodmater, spreading the truth about his crimes far and wide. And as expected, they were handling public sentiment far better than I'd anticipated. It was easy to control an angry crowd. Just give them a tangible target to direct their rage at. Now, Bloodmater was crucified in front of the Imperial Palace, exposed for the entire city to see. Every day, hundreds of people gathered to hurl filth at him. Some even tried to kill him outright. But Mikar wouldn't let him die just yet. They planned to throw him into the coming war. And that was exactly what he wanted as well. At least, that part of the story remained unchanged. The real problem was me. I sighed in frustration, thinking about what was coming next. Since Fry Starlight was supposed to be dead at this point in the original timeline, I had no idea what would happen next. I had a general idea, but I didn't know the details. And that uncertainty had left me restless these past few days, anxiously waiting for the temple's next move. The stress that I used to shake off at Shaheen's restaurant was now piling up without him around. Damn you, old man. Why the hell did you have to leave? I stood near a small lake, staring at the rippling water as old memories surfaced. But then, I froze. A strange sensation washed over me, a feeling of calmness, as if all my fatigue was melting away. I wasn't stupid. I knew this wasn't natural. I immediately turned toward the source of that presence. Reveal yourself. I deliberately hardened my voice. In response, a woman stepped out of the darkness. With flowing golden hair, ethereal blue eyes, and a voluptuous figure, she approached me with both hands raised in a disarming manner. Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. I let out a small sigh. No need to apologize, Ms. Uriel. I should be thanking you for whatever you just did. Oh, don't mention it. You looked exhausted. Were you training? Matching her direct and casual tone, I nodded. She responded with a teasing, seductive smile. Well done. I'm proud of you. Junior. Junior. Uriel nodded vigorously before explaining. Since I'm several years older than you, I should call you Junior. And you should call me Senior. Seriously? My expression went blank. Uriel caught on immediately. Go on, try calling me that. Call you what? Senior. Was I really about to call a saint candidate, a character I created, Senior? Are we in a football club or something? Yeah, not happening. I stuck out my tongue in disgust at the mere thought. Besides, if we're talking about actual age, I'm already older than her. You won't. She asked again, prompting me to cut this pointless conversation short and get straight to the real issue. I'd rather call you as I did before. By the way, Ms. Uriel, isn't it about time you told me why you've been following me? A subtle shift crossed her expression at my unexpected question. She had tried to make this encounter seem coincidental, but I knew her far too well. She was one of the heroines in my story, after all. I thought I hid myself well. You have sharp senses, Junior Fry. To be honest, I hadn't sensed a thing. It was almost laughable. I had simply deduced it based on my knowledge of her true character, and it turned out I was right. Now then, what do you want from me, dear Uriel Platini? Her answer came swiftly, paired with that same playful smile. Would you believe me if I said I had no ulterior motives? Her feigned nonchalance only made her seem more suspicious. With that alluring demeanor and an undeniable presence, it was hard to believe she was the church's leading saint candidate. I shrugged. I believe you. If you truly meant me harm, you wouldn't have gone through the trouble of hiding yourself. She hadn't expected that response, but she quickly adapted, stepping closer. Those words, do you really mean them? That I'm stronger than you? Of course. You're a saint candidate, while I'm just… Actually, Fry Starlight, I followed you here because you caught my interest. I didn't mind her cutting me off. She clearly saw herself as the senior one here. I caught your interest? Uriel nodded. Her words reminded me of the time she had attempted to probe me, trying to confirm whether I was the contractor. Back then, Balerion had repelled her holy power. I knew she had sensed that something was off, but I hadn't expected her to dig this deep. I heard you defeated the main contractor alongside the princess. That's right. Somehow, we managed to win by working together. By now, the story of how Sansa, Ghost, and I had taken down Ferrith was already spreading, so there was no point in hiding it. I wonder if that's really how it happened. It's the truth. Uriel smiled faintly at my swift response. I'll take your word for it. A brief silence settled between us as we both gazed at the tranquil lake before us. It was the only thing left untouched amidst the ruins and destruction. The night atmosphere only made the scene more surreal. Then, breaking the silence, Uriel turned to me with a soft smile, her hands resting behind her back. As the church's leading saint candidate, I failed miserably when I couldn't identify the contractor. But you corrected my mistake. So, how about a little gift from me? I smirked, deliberately twisting her words. What kind of gift? She didn't play along. Instead, she simply revealed what she had in mind. You're curious, aren't you? About what will happen to the temple from now on. My expression shifted instantly. Now she had my full attention. Hee, your curiosity is written all over your face. Unfortunately, I'm terrible at hiding my expressions. As for your gift, I'll gladly accept it. If I could get an early insight into what was coming, I'd have time to prepare. And that was invaluable to me. The official announcement will be made soon, but I managed to get this information a little earlier. No harm in sharing it with you. Then, with a composed tone, she continued, It's simple, really, Junior Fry. The temple is undergoing a major transformation. It's no longer an independent institution. External forces will now be involved. I nodded. I already knew this much. The great houses and the church. That's correct. Uriel smiled, pleased with how quickly I grasped the situation. It made her explanation much easier. Since the temple will need time to rebuild, all students will be sent on training expeditions to major guilds. As for us elite students, we'll be sent to the 3 great houses. She glanced at me with an amused smile. So, Junior Fry, which family do you think they assigned you to? I paused for a moment. What she said aligned perfectly with the original events of the story. As planned, everyone would undergo closed training within the great houses. I already knew that much. What I didn't know was which family I'd be sent to. The logical choice would be the family that suited me best, which meant House Starlight. It was the only answer that made sense. But Uriel shook her head. It's House Moonlight. Ha! House Moonlight, the guardians of the Empire's western borders. Sarah's family. That didn't make sense. You look surprised, Junior Fry. Uriel Platini seemed to enjoy reading my expression. But I didn't let it bother me. I simply confirmed her words. Honestly, I am. And rightfully so. She paused for a second before continuing. I came to see you today because I wanted to know you better. Fry Starlight, you're someone I may fight alongside in the future. A force that may prove essential to this empire. Then, with a slight change in tone, she added, that's why I need to warn you. I listened carefully. Everything she said gave me clues about what was happening now, and what was about to happen. External hands have interfered with your placement. So never let your guard down. And don't die. With those final words, Uriel Platini turned away, her usual gentle smile never fading. In return, I gave her a small nod. Thank you, Senior Uriel. She stopped briefly upon hearing my words, then walked off, stifling a small chuckle. Even though she had spoken to me while wearing that mask to conceal her emotions, I knew just how kind she truly was. She went out of her way to warn me, despite having nothing to gain from it. And for that, I was grateful. As I turned around and left, a new thought emerged in my mind. Now, what does House Moonlight want from me? Chapter 90. Leaving the Temple 1. Fry Starlight's POV. That night, after the unexpected encounter with Uriel, I returned to the elite dormitory, trying to make sense of what I had just heard. The Moonlight family wants me. Their expertise lay in wave controller and spearmanship. Their primary element was water, with ice as its superior affinity. Of course, many within their ranks could aid me as a swordsman. But when it came to swordsmanship, no one surpassed the Starlight family. So, just as Uriel had implied, someone had tampered with the selection process. I entered the dormitory, its dimly lit corridors stretching ahead, silent and empty, until I caught sight of something in the distance. Or rather, someone. The only source of light was the moonlight filtering through the windows, making it difficult to recognize her at first. A golden-haired girl, barefoot, wearing a white nightgown. She walked forward, her steps heavy, seemingly oblivious to her surroundings. Sansa, she's back. I had heard she left after the incident, yet here she was, standing before me. As we entered each other's field of vision, our eyes met, but she showed no reaction. Hey, Sansa. I spoke first. No response. She continued walking, completely ignoring me, the loose nightgown draping over her slender frame. Sansa, what's? That was when I realized something was wrong. Her golden eyes were wide open, yet a dark glow pulsed within them, an unnatural, eerie light. Was she sleepwalking? Hey, you! I grabbed her arm, stopping her in place. The moment my hand touched her skin, her golden irises flickered, the ominous glow fading as if it had never existed. Huh? Fry, you finally woke up. Why am I here, dressed like this? What's going on? It took her a few moments to process the situation. Finding herself in the middle of the dormitory, in nightwear, standing in front of someone she hadn't expected to see. A faint flush crept onto her face. Being considerate, I took a step back, giving her space. Do you usually sleepwalk? She hesitated for a moment before replying uncertainly. I don't know. This has never happened before. I see. Well, welcome back, anyway. Sansa nodded, and I gestured toward her room. Given her current attire, she didn't argue. Don't stare too much. Yeah, I won't. We walked in silence until we reached her room, one of the highest-ranked accommodations in the dormitory. Thanks, Fry. No problem. Good night. I turned away, heading for my own room. Yet, as I walked, I could feel her lingering gaze on my back. I wasn't sure why, but I didn't dwell on it. And so, my strange night came to an end. It wasn't long before the temple made an official announcement. One that shook everyone. Just as Uriel had hinted, we were being sent away. At that moment, all elite students were gathered in the elite hall, waiting for the assignment results. As always, Ellen was the one leading the proceedings. Despite her petite stature and childlike appearance, her commanding voice left no room for distractions. Due to the current state of the temple, all elite students will be sent to the great families for a 1-month training period. The assignments were made at the request of the families themselves, so do not complain about the results. As for the elite ranking, vacant spots will soon be filled, replacing those who have perished. The updated rankings will be announced later. She paused briefly, reviewing the list in her hands. So, we're being separated. The one who spoke was Ragna Claude, standing beside Danzo and me. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Everyone waited anxiously to learn where they would be sent. For some reason, Danzo was unusually quiet. Knowing his personality, I immediately sensed that something was wrong. I glanced at him, my gaze falling on the blood-stained bandages wrapped around both of his hands. I couldn't stop myself from asking, "Danzo, what happened to your hands?" He followed my gaze, looking at his arms before answering in a low voice. It's nothing." But Ragna knew the truth. "You've been overtraining again, haven't you? You've been doing this ever since that incident." "Shut up. I'm not." Danzo snorted, while Ragna twirled his spear, smirking. "Well, train as much as you want, but I won't let you surpass me. Ha ha ha." I listened to their conversation in silence. Danzo, was he awakening earlier than expected? In the original timeline, he was a late bloomer. Despite his overwhelming talent, it took him far too long to realize his true potential. Yet now, seeing that determined look in his eyes, I was certain, perhaps the beast would awaken sooner this time. Just then, I felt a gaze from across the hall. Slowly, I turned to find a girl with white hair staring at me. Klana. The moment our eyes met, she quickly looked away. Her reaction brought back memories of what happened before. How I had suddenly kissed her out of nowhere. No matter how much I thought about it, it was strange. Imagine fighting for your life against dozens of enemies, only for someone to appear out of nowhere and kiss you. I sighed, thinking about the unusual connection forming between us. But as I had said before, achievement points are all that matter. If that mission led to worse things than a kiss, so be it. As long as the price was right, I wouldn't mind going through with it. Frey's body had certain advantages. It would be a waste not to make full use of them. Luckily, Ellen's voice pulled me from my inappropriate thoughts. "Sorry for the delay. The assignments are as follows. For the first-year students." As she spoke, massive screens lit up, displaying the names for all to see. Starlight Family, Snow Lionheart. At the mention of his name, all eyes turned toward a young man standing in the crowd. He had made a lasting impact during the recent battle, displaying exceptional skill and slaughtering countless enemies. Without a doubt, he was the strongest among all first-year students. Without mentioning the strange phenomenon that had occurred during his battle. Fortunately, not many had noticed it, but Ragna pointed it out casually. "That guy. He used ice, didn't he?" The sheer number of events overlapping with one another had caused most people to forget what had happened. Snow Lionheart, despite already wielding 3 elements, had displayed a 4th ability, an overwhelmingly superior power, so effortlessly that it seemed like he had possessed it all along. Now, rumors about him were spreading like wildfire. The so-called prodigy. Whispers filled every corner of the hall. Yet, Snow himself remained indifferent, merely nodding when his name was called. Ellen continued with the announcements. Along with Snow, Klana Starlight, Lara Croft, and finally Adriana Hygeforn. These individuals will depart tomorrow, heading east to the Oakloss Mountains. As soon as the names were announced, murmurs erupted. What's going on with the Starlight family? Their selections seem weak, but somehow, they managed to get Snow Lionheart. Isn't Fry Starlight the heir? Why didn't they request him? Sigh. I knew this would happen. The Starlight family was at its weakest right now. They couldn't afford to monopolize the strongest talents, so they had to be cautious with their choices. Huh? They picked me? Adriana's surprised gasp said it all. Normally, A spear wielder like her wouldn't join a family of swordsmen, the Starlight family. But the other families had likely secured the rest of the promising talents, which brought us back to Snow. In his case, all three major families had undoubtedly sought him out. In such situations, the individual was informed in advance and allowed to choose which family they wanted to join. And Snow had chosen Starlight. The reason was obvious. Their specialty was swordsmanship, and their primary elements were light and star. These aligned perfectly with his strengths, so it wasn't surprising. The Starlight family had lucked out this time. As for me, I could feel countless eyes on me, filled with curiosity. The one abandoned by his own family. Even his own family doesn't want him. I would be hearing that a lot. I should have received an offer from my own family, but they never sent one. My sister must have tried. But someone had blocked her. A wry smile crossed my lips. Interesting enemies. Chapter 91. Leaving the temple, 2. Ellen moved on to the next group. Now, for the Sunlight family. Dawn Polaris, Scarite Sunlight, Evan Sunlight, Ragna Cloud. I glanced at Iris's children. They had survived in the end. To be honest, only 2 elite first years had died. One of them being Ferrith, the traitor. The other was that bookworm from Class A, Thomas Newt, who ranked 9th. With his death, Adriana had lost a friend. Just as originally planned in the novel. Surprisingly, the Sunlight family's list was quite long. In addition to Dawn, Scar, Evan, and Ragna, Ellen continued listing more names. Kyle Walker, Jean Dover, and Aaron Smith. That completes the list. Those assigned to the Sunlight family will head south to Neoklas. Ferritha's lackeys, they had survived as well. That made it 7 names for the Sunlight family. Far more than Starlight. So, I'm going to Neoklas, huh? Ragna muttered, sounding slightly displeased. But to him, the families didn't matter. The Sunlight family specialized in explosive combat, wielding fire and lightning as their primary elements, so it wasn't a bad fit for him. Neoklas was the southern capital, home of the Sunlight family, and one of the most beautiful places to live. Those assigned there had essentially won the jackpot. Now only one family remained. Now for the Moonlight family. The names are as follows. Ceres Moonlight, Ghost Umbra, Danzo Smasher, Fry Starlight. Silence fell over the hall once again. The first person to speak voiced what everyone was thinking. What's with this team? His reaction was justified. Ceres was an obvious choice. But Ghost Umbra? And even worse, Fry Starlight? Isn't that family supposed to be at odds with him? You know, that infamous incident when he tried to. The whispers grew louder than ever. Amidst the chaos, I scanned the room. So we're together this time. Danzo remained unfazed by the foolish chatter around us. That was one of the reasons I enjoyed hanging out with him. Seems like it. I kept my response brief. My mind was focused on something else. Ghost Umbra. He wasn't supposed to join the Moonlight family either. Someone of his caliber should have received offers from all 3 major families, just like Snow. So why Moonlight? I couldn't understand his reasoning. After all, I disliked deviations from the story. Ellen didn't waste time and quickly resumed her announcements. She still had to introduce the upper year teams, which was already giving her a headache. Those assigned to the Moonlight family will head west. Your destination is Winterfell. And now, I need to introduce your new classmates. Here we go. The replacements for those who had died. They are skilled mages from the class of the traitor, Kai Luke. After recent events, a decision was made to integrate the best of them into the elite class. And so, please step forward. 2 individuals emerged from behind Ellen, each vastly different from the other. The first was a young man dressed in a long blue robe, with gentle features, blue eyes, and golden blonde hair. But I paid him no mind. My full attention was on the second individual. A girl. She wore a black mage's hat, her jet black hair cascading like a waterfall, crimson red eyes, matching earrings, and a beauty mark just below her lower lip. She gazed coldly at the crowd before her. Meanwhile, I simply smiled, watching my imagination manifest into reality. One of the main heroines now stood before me. Ellen promptly announced their names. The mage, Xavier Adams, will officially join Class A. Meanwhile, the sorceress, Selena Hemsworth, will be placed in Class B. And just like that, another deviation from the story. The heroine who was supposed to be in Class A was now in Class B with me. What surprised me even more was Ellen's next statement. Xavier will be joining the team heading south to the Sunlight family, while Selena will accompany the team assigned to the Moonlight family. That is all for now. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. This journey was going to be even stranger than I had anticipated. It took them a full hour to announce the teams for the remaining years, and I had no choice but to endure the wait. At that moment, I envied Sansa. The prince and princess were exempt from attending since they were heading straight to the imperial family. Meanwhile, the saint candidate Emilia Aderix had gone to the church. They were spared from this tedious gathering. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ellen wrapped up her speech, drawing attention to something important. As we enter this new phase, your rankings have been updated. Please check your cards. Following her instructions, I glanced at my golden card and noticed the new number inscribed on it. Fry Starlight, B6. My rank had risen from 9 to 6. Ha! Why the hell did my rank drop? Ragna's frustrated outburst from the side made me realize what had happened. Ellen didn't allow the reactions to spiral out of control. With her usual composure, she continued leading the crowd. Your journey to the great families will have a major impact on your rankings. So, give it your all until the very end. The temple is no longer what it once was. We need to grow stronger. Much, much stronger. Good luck. With that, Ellen stepped back, and new rankings flashed across the screens behind her. Updated rankings. First year, Class B. 1. Saris Moonlight B1. 2. Selena Hemsworth B2. 3. Sansa Valerian B3. 4. Ragna Cloud B4. 5. Danzo Smasher B5. 6. Fry Starlight B6. 7. Clanna Starlight B7. 8. Adriana Higeforn B8. 9. Kyle Walker B9. 10. Jan Dover B10. Things have changed a lot now.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't do anything. It's fine. Even with your position, Ada, stopping two great families from joining forces was impossible. Ada? Yes, I may not have been able to prevent it, but I'll support you with everything I have. I appreciate that, but how exactly do you plan to do it? My sister smiled from behind the screen, her voice carrying a hint of mischief. You'll find out when you reach Winterfell. So, it's a surprise? Look forward to it. Her voice was beginning to fade under the rising clamor around me. Not wanting to strain the conversation further, I quickly pressed the call end button. I will. Turning off my watch, I refocused on my surroundings. We were now in a completely different part of Belgrade, the imperial capital, one filled with a deafening, chaotic energy. How annoying! With the temple's influence crumbling and the empire teetering on the brink of war, the teleportation gates had become so overcrowded that using them was out of the question. In the first place, there were only a limited number of gates, and humanity had never figured out how to replicate them. They had simply appeared alongside the catastrophe 400 years ago. That left us with the second fastest method of travel within the empire, the very source of the relentless noise drilling into my skull. The Elpathian trains. High speed. Metal behemoths engineered to tear through the land at terrifying speeds, defying derailment. A technological marvel co-developed by the great families. There were only 35 Elpathian trains, each connecting different regions of the empire. And now I stood before one of them. This iron leviathan was one of the few things capable of plowing through the frozen wastelands of western Winterfell. But as I took a closer look at its towering frame, it was even larger than I had imagined. I found myself momentarily mesmerized by its sheer scale. First time seeing one? Danzo, standing beside me, caught on to my reaction. Something like that. My vague response made him raise an eyebrow. After all, I was the heir of a great family. It would be odd if I had never ridden a train before. Fortunately, I had already thought of an excuse. I've always used the teleportation gates since childhood. I never really had the chance to take a train. Danzo seemed to accept my explanation, which only made his reaction more predictable. Sometimes, I forget you're just a spoiled brat. I offered a weak smile at his jab. Fry may have been a pampered noble, but he wasn't even supposed to be alive right now. As for me, I had spent more time in the Nightmare Lands and the Shadow Sect than I had in the Empire. Calling myself spoiled felt absurd. Looks like we'll be leaving soon. A sudden voice cut in, making both Danzo and me flinch. Turning to the side, we found Ghost, who had appeared out of nowhere. Damn it! I almost bit my tongue. Where the hell did you come from? Danzo barked, clearly startled. Ghost's expression remained unreadable. I've been here for a while. You just didn't notice. I let out a small sigh, acknowledging his words. Assassins like him had a way of slipping into the background. But Ghost wasn't the only one here now. Everyone had gathered, signaling that it was almost time to depart. I spotted Ceres Moonlight nearby, standing beside Selena Hemsworth, the mage who had recently joined us. So that's the witch who made all of us drop a rank, Danzo muttered. You mean made you drop a rank? Danzo's expression darkened at Ghost's swift correction. After all, Ghost was still ranked second in Class A. You bastard! Are you picking a fight? Not at all. Just stating a fact. Each word they exchanged pushed them closer to throwing punches, so I quickly stepped between them. All right. At least wait until we get there. I don't even want to imagine what would happen if you start fighting now. Danzo scoffed and backed off, while Ghost simply tilted his head. But I wasn't trying to start a... Stop. I know, so don't say another word. His bluntness was precisely why he irritated almost everyone around him. But more importantly, Ghost approaching us on his own, a rare occurrence, was an opportunity. Ghost, mind if I ask you something personal? Our eyes met for a moment before he answered in his usual monotone. Depends on the question. The fact that he didn't reject it outright was enough. Why the Moonlight family? Danzo, who had been looking elsewhere, immediately turned his head back toward us, his interest clearly piqued. Ghost didn't hesitate with his answer. That's simple, because you are here, Fry Starlight. Huh? What does that? Everyone's here. A new, unfamiliar female voice interrupted. We all turned toward the source. A woman stood before us, dressed in high heels, a long fur coat, and dark sunglasses. Her short black hair framed an expression of supreme arrogance. She looked like nothing more than a haughty woman in her late 20s. But the sheer pressure radiating from her, combined with the way her voice rang inside our heads, was proof that she was anything but ordinary. She waved a hand dismissively. Let's not waste time. Since your instructors are lacking, I'll be overseeing you on this journey. Then she smirked. The name's Jane Moonlight. At that moment, the eyes of every upperclassman from the Moonlight family gleamed with admiration. And I immediately understood why. Jane Moonlight, one of the top 15 powerhouses within the family. I wasn't sure which category she belonged to, but that didn't matter, because her gaze was locked onto only two people, Ceres Moonlight and me. The pressure she exerted was unpleasant, but at least she didn't overdo it. More importantly, her presence reminded me once again of Professor Sophia, the one who was originally supposed to oversee us. Rumors claimed she had suffered a fatal injury and was recovering somewhere, but they were just that, rumors. Whether it was her or Bonatiro, both had vanished for quite some time now. We're departing immediately, kids. You'll be assigned to different compartments based on your academic year. Each year gets its own. Jane pulled out a black card, holding it up for everyone to see. You all received one before entering the station. It indicates your compartment and assigned seat, so I don't want to see any chaos. She looked genuinely annoyed with her temporary role. In fact, she was about to leave us to handle things ourselves when she suddenly remembered something. Oh, right. I almost forgot, regular civilians will be traveling with us. This isn't a private trip, so behave yourselves. As she finished speaking, the train's horn blared, and murmurs of surprise spread through the crowd. Chapter 92. The Elpathian Train. Trying to stay out of sight, I made my way toward my assigned compartment with a blank expression. Danzo and Ghost followed, forming a group of 3. The Elpathian trains were massive, their interiors spacious and elegant. Honestly, I had missed the atmosphere of train rides from my original world, so I didn't mind traveling alongside commoners at all. Upon entering the compartment, my eyes landed on the all-too-familiar layout. Rows of seats on either side, a narrow aisle in the center, and giant windows lining both walls. Yep, it's a train, all right. Following the numbers on my card, I found my window seat, perfectly centered in the compartment. Ghost took the seat beside me, while Danzo sat alone behind us. And as if fate were playing a cruel joke, Saris and Selena were seated directly across from us. The moment Saris Moonlight's gaze met mine, we both instinctively looked away. The tension didn't go unnoticed. Selena merely nodded politely under her witch's hat before turning her attention elsewhere. Ghost, ever observant, watched for a moment before speaking in a hushed voice. Things seem complicated between you and the Moonlight Princess. That's right. I didn't deny it. No matter how much she tried to conceal it, I knew just how much that girl hated me. Your story is famous throughout the Empire. Did you really do that to her? Ghost's words cut through the silence like a blade. Danzo, intrigued, leaned forward from behind, waiting for my response. The corpse makes a good point. I've been meaning to ask you that myself. Ghost ignored Danzo's mocking nickname for him and simply waited for my answer. I let out a weary sigh. You answered my question earlier, so I suppose it's only fair that I answer yours now. Yes, it really happened. Raising my palm, I conjured a pink mist tinged with black, revealing a peculiar book bearing the title Seduction. I used this skill back then to try and violate her, but that attempt ended in disaster. I spoke in a bored tone, but the weight of my words was undeniable. After all, I have publicly admitted to bad behavior. Damn, Fry, you're bolder than I thought. So, you're not just a spoiled brat. You're a perverted one too. I'm surprised you can talk about it so casually. Danzo and Ghost reacted accordingly, but I simply dismissed the skill and leaned against the train window. There's no point in hiding it. The past is the past. Danzo shrugged, glancing toward Saris. Well, she's the most beautiful girl alive, so I kind of get why you'd want her. I let out a weak chuckle. Come on, man. Don't act like you understand it. A brief silence followed before Ghost, ever perceptive, spoke again. I see. So that's why she hates you. I wouldn't say that's the reason. Ghost tilted his head. That incident, isn't that why she hates you? Both he and Danzo looked puzzled. I simply nodded. That's just what everyone was told, but the truth is far worse. Even Ghost struggled to grasp the implications. I could tell they were burning with curiosity, but I simply shook my head with a faint smile. Of all people, I'm the least qualified to talk about it. So let's leave it at that for now. Saris Moonlight, knowing the full truth of what happened, I was certain she would never forgive me, because I had forced her to relive her worst nightmare right before her eyes. Even someone like her, who pretended to be emotionless, would never be able to move past that. So, in a way, I understood her. After a brief silence, Danzo groaned. Seriously? You're just gonna leave us hanging after all that buildup? He tried to press for more, but when I refused to budge, he gave up quickly. Ghost, however, continued staring at me intently. Then what will you do? If things are really as bad as you say, your situation is a nightmare, isn't it? After all, we're heading straight for it. Winterfell, the home of the Moonlight family. As an answer to his question, my face turned expressionless. the same look I often wore in the nightmare lands. What will I do? The answer is simple. I won't back down. The past is the past. But if the Moonlight family wants to play games, I'll answer with everything I have. Hearing my response, Ghost smirked, satisfied. I'll be looking forward to it. A few minutes later, the entire compartment trembled as the train roared to life. Like an awakened beast, the Elpathian train surged forward, tearing through the wind. The scenery outside the window shifted constantly, growing faster and faster as the train picked up speed. I found myself lost in the moment, absorbed by the sights. This journey would take me closer to the land I had only ever described in words, closer than ever before. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. Selena Hemsworth's POV. I just overheard something interesting. Those three were using aura manipulation to keep others from listening in. A clever and effective trick, but unfortunately for them, I heard everything. Instinctively, I turned towards Ceres Moonlight. My gaze lingered on her, drawn to her striking features. She was beautiful, undeniably so. It wasn't hard to understand the countless stories about her. And then, there was her complicated relationship with Fry Starlight. I wanted to understand them, these new classmates of mine. In the past, I had been part of the witch class under the traitor Kai Luke. A girl who found herself in a class full of betrayers. Classmates who turned against the nation overnight. All of them followed Professor Kai Luke down his path of treachery. So, as a witch loyal to my homeland, I killed them all. I slaughtered the very people I once called comrades. Even now, when I look at my hands beneath these gloves, I still see their blood. For a time, I considered leaving the temple, but then he came, offering a place in the elite class. His words were poison wrapped in honey, but they struck deep nonetheless. And before I knew it, I was here. This time, I was part of the elite. They said they were strong. They said they were different. I wanted to see it for myself. Starting with the girl right in front of me. Ceres, how about I do you a favor? As expected, Ceres turned to face me, her expression cold and unreadable. What kind of favor? A smirk played at my lips as I flicked my gaze toward the boys seated across from us. Fry Starlight is right there. Should I kill him for you? Ceres's eyes widened, not with fear, but with surprise. It lasted only a moment before she collected herself. I don't appreciate these kinds of jokes, Selena. I'm not joking. Don't you want him dead? After everything that happened?
No.
A swift, unwavering response. My smile only widened as I pointed out a crucial detail. Your family doesn't seem to share that opinion. Ceres clenched her fists, fingers tightening just slightly, before turning toward the window. That has nothing to do with this. In other words, her family's will was not her own. She was trying to act indifferent, but her emotions had already betrayed her. I find that hard to believe. In the end, Ceres, you didn't do anything to stop them, did you? For a brief moment, fleeting, yet long enough for me to catch, I saw her true emotions. She didn't want to kill him, but she hadn't stopped her family from trying. Heh, my dear Ceres, that's called hypocrisy. What do you know? She asked, voice tense, her hands gripping her knees. I simply shook my head slowly. Nothing. I know nothing. This was my first day in the elite class. I had no intention of provoking the Moonlight Princess further. For now, this was enough. Silence settled between us once more. But our focus had shifted elsewhere. The train was crossing a massive bridge, overlooking a deep abyss. This bridge was famous Snow Tower, an architectural marvel spanning an enormous chasm, allowing the train to cut across the terrain efficiently. From the moment we entered this region, no one had taken their eyes off the windows, mesmerized by the breathtaking view as the train raced forward. The scene helped ease the tension from earlier. I was about to close my eyes, hoping to get some rest, but it seemed I had asked for too much. It happened fast. The train's horn blared, but another sound suddenly followed.
A deafening explosion.
In an instant, the bridge ahead was obliterated. Then came a third sound. Screams. The train, falling from the sky. A moment of silence. Then chaos. Then destruction. A train plunging into the abyss. Bodies violently thrown around inside. Ah! So this trip wasn't going to be peaceful after all. Chapter 93. Unfair Battle 1. Fry Starlight's POV. This is incredible. I muttered under my breath as we reached a place I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. A massive bridge suspended in the sky, with a colossal train speeding across it at an astonishing pace. Snowflakes continued to fall relentlessly, covering the mountaintops in a thick, white blanket. The atmosphere was shifting at a visible rate, but thankfully, I had packed enough winter clothes. The bridge stretched endlessly before us, making it clear that we'd be on it for quite some time. Hey, take a look at this. Both Ghost and I were mesmerized by the scenery outside the train window, but Danzo's words drew our attention elsewhere. He pointed toward the front of the cabin, where a lone man sat. He's huge. Ghost's observation was spot on. The man's massive frame occupied 2 seats. He wore a long black coat and a wide-brimmed black hat, his broad back facing us. How did we not notice someone like that before? I narrowed my eyes, my instincts tingling. A figure that conspicuous shouldn't have escaped my notice. I don't get it either. I swear he wasn't there before. It's like he just appeared. Danzo sounded just as wary as I felt. I'll check him out. Ghost straightened slightly, his expression cold and calculating. You sure? I asked doubtful. He nodded. Stealth is my forte. Just make yourself a useful corpse and don't get caught. Danzo's teasing remark made Ghost's eyes swirl with black vortexes. He was about to make his move when, boom! A deafening explosion rang out, freezing us in place. The shockwave rattled the windows, causing cracks to spread across the glass. Passengers screamed in terror. Then the worst happened. I activated my hawk eyes, flooding them with aura to push the skill to its limits. Through enhanced vision, I saw beyond the walls, as if observing everything from above. And in that instant, I caught sight of something that confirmed our worst fears. My voice came out weak, my face draining of color. The bridge. It's been blown up. Danzo and Ghost reacted instantly. You've got to be kidding me. I grabbed onto the nearest support beam. Brace yourselves. We're about to fall. Shit. Danzo punched the steel wall, his fist sinking into the metal as he held on tightly. Ghost vanished into the shadows. A violent screech of twisting metal filled the air as the train trembled, trying to halt. But at over 500 kilometers per hour, stopping was impossible. A sinking sensation gripped my stomach, my organs seemingly shifting as the train plummeted. It was like the sensation of a plane taking off, only 100 times worse. Panic clawed at me as my mind scrambled for a way out. If we crashed from this height, survival was out of the question. No, forget survival, there might not even be bodies left. Should I blow a hole in the train and try to latch onto something using Balerion? No, there was nothing to latch onto. We were free-falling in the goddamn sky. The screams of passengers blurred my thoughts, worsening the chaos in my mind. Then, my eyes landed on Selena. Right? She's a mage. She might have an ability that could save us. I was about to launch myself toward her, but then something unbelievable happened. The train stopped falling. Bodies slammed onto the floor as everyone tried to process what had just occurred. I glanced out the window, heart pounding. We were still in the sky. Somehow, the train had halted midair, suspended as if held by an invisible hand. Only one person remained completely still, as if none of this concerned him. The giant sitting at the front. All eyes. Danzo's, Ghost's, the girls were locked on him. The suffocating aura radiating from his body left no doubt. It was him. He was the one holding up the train. Sensing our gazes, he finally rose. And only then did we truly grasp the enormity of his size. He turned slowly, revealing a steel mask with a single eye gleaming beneath his black hat. Without preamble, he raised a hand toward us. Then, a deep, metallic voice rumbled from behind the mask. Shall we get rid of the unwanted guests? At his words, a crushing force descended upon us. I felt my body grow 10 times heavier. The train windows shattered under the immense pressure. I dropped to one knee, struggling to endure it. But the weaker passengers? They were flattened against the floor, unable to move. This is gravity? The masked giant extended a single finger toward the exit, and the invisible force hurled all the passengers out of the train. Only the 5 of us, those strong enough to resist, remained. Satisfied, the giant spread his arms wide. Now then, come to me. We all froze at his invitation. Who the hell are you? Danzo's voice was sharp, matching the weight of the masked man's presence. But the response we got was peculiar. The giant tilted his head, speaking as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Someone who wants to kill you? His tone was casual, and that made it even worse. His strength was on an entirely different level. This man, this steel-faced monster, was holding up this damn SkyTrain while talking to us. How the hell were we supposed to fight someone like that? His patience seemed to run thin. He took a single step forward, and the gravity doubled. You won't come? Then I'll do it myself. Despite his sheer bulk, his speed was inhuman. At the same time, Saris let out a sharp cry, ice aura bursting around her. Everyone, fight! She unleashed a devastating frost wave, freezing the entire cabin and attempting to encase the giant in ice. But the moment the frost touched him, it shattered under the sheer force of gravity. Pointless tricks. If even Saris ice couldn't slow him down, we were in serious trouble. Screw it. Danzo lunged, silver aura coating his fists like solid steel. Ghost had already vanished into the shadows. Saris and Selena prepared ranged attacks from the back. This had officially become a battle to the death. I drew my sword from my ring, scanning the situation. Escaping was the most logical option. But there was no way this monster would let me. The other cabins weren't any safer. The clashing auras from distant battles told me that the higher-ups were already fighting their own wars. That left one option. I had to face him. Chapter 94. Unfair Battle 2. Who the hell was this guy? Did this happen in the original timeline of the Moonlight family's expedition? I had no answers. This was uncharted territory. No more thinking. Phantom steps. In an instant I flashed past Danzo and appeared right in front of the giant. A black slash carrying the weight of darkness swung straight for his throat. How ironic. My sword didn't even reach him. It stopped the moment it touched the dense gravitational field surrounding him. Do you want to dance? His fist flared with violent energy right before my eyes. A strike that could tear me apart in an instant. But just as he moved, Ghost emerged from my shadow, launching a swift dagger strike toward the giant's vital points. Perfect timing. Yet the giant paid him no mind, his focus locked solely on me. Ghost's daggers, like my sword, failed to pierce the gravitational field. Fortunately, Danzo struck the giant's fist at the last second, diverting its trajectory and making it easier for me to evade. Impressive teamwork. But now die. He was about to attack again, until his feet abruptly sank into the floor of the carriage, as if swallowed by an unseen force. What the? For the first time, the steel-masked giant hesitated as his surroundings flipped upside down, the very ground twisting and warping, transforming into the gaping maw of some monstrous beast. This was the perfect opening for an attack. One I wasn't foolish enough to miss. Everyone, get back! A black flame ignited atop my sword, the ground beneath me fracturing violently. 10,000 steps of shadow, infinite darkness. I slashed with everything I had, aiming straight for his skull. The sheer force of my attack obliterated the carriage walls and ceiling. The aura of darkness surged, powerful enough to crush steel itself. But from the depths of the abyss, the giant's body emerged, unscathed. That was weak. He barely acknowledged my attack before preparing to retaliate. But before he could, 2 massive arms materialized out of nowhere, locking onto him with crushing force. I can't hold him for long. Attack now. Selena's voice rang out as she strained to keep him restrained. Danzo was the first to move. 3 additional arms sprouted from his sides, unleashing a relentless barrage of rapid punches. Yet, strangely, none of his strikes landed. Each blow was absorbed by the gravitational barrier. Well, now, this is getting interesting. With a simple motion, he unleashed another gravity wave, repelling us all once more. This time, his focus shifted to Selena. To prepare this many spells in such a short time, did you anticipate all of this and set up the battlefield beforehand? Our opponent was annoyingly talkative, but Selena was just as sharp. Set up the battlefield? Are you stupid? A glowing circle appeared beneath her feet as a vortex spiraled around her right arm. There's no such thing as preparing the battlefield. As a mage, this is simply how I fight. The entire world is my battlefield. She stood firm, a confident smile on her face, undeterred by the giant's piercing gaze. Such dedication and passion. Then allow me to test your magic. Why don't you test this instead? He was caught off guard by my sudden charge. You again? Didn't you learn your lesson? True, my attacks weren't penetrating his defenses. So why not change my approach? The moment he expected a frontal assault, I vanished. Reappearing behind him, I attempted to stab him in the back, only for his armor to deflect my blade. But I didn't stop. I darted around him at blinding speed, searching for an opening. After all, my greatest asset wasn't my strength. It was my speed. The giant was caught in a whirlwind of black streaks as I attacked from every possible angle. Yet, no matter how many times I struck, my sword failed to leave a scratch. Pointless. He extended his hand, unleashing a strange suction force that pulled me toward him despite my speed. In an instant, his massive hand wrapped around my throat. Pain seared through me as I realized the gap between us was far greater than I thought. It seems you'll be the first to go. Fry Starlight. His grip tightened, threatening to crush my neck. But fortunately, I wasn't alone. Ghost reacted swiftly. Dozens of black tendrils erupted from my shadow, wrapping around me and yanking me into the darkness. I sank into a pitch-black abyss before Ghost's hand reached out, pulling me back onto solid ground, far from the giant's grasp. Son of Mist, huh? The bastard was analyzing us, amused. But I wasn't in the mood to listen. My reckless attack had given me something valuable. I had gauged the distance between us. And the result? It was worse than I had imagined. Even if I summoned Balerion, I still wouldn't be able to beat him. This monster was at least S rank. He had been toying with us from the start. The longer this battle continued, the more apparent it became we never stood a chance. And he knew it too. Show me more. First-year students. He raised both hands, activating the same suction force as before. But this time, his targets were the girls in the back. Ceres and Selena. Both of them were pulled toward him at alarming speed. Ceres conjured a massive spear in an attempt to stop him, but it shattered before even reaching him. Selena, however, reacted differently. She vanished, leaving behind only a suitcase with a red circle drawn on it. Losing one of them didn't faze him. He had already caught Ceres. She tried to freeze him with an overwhelming surge of ice aura, but his gravity was far stronger. Her attempt failed instantly. Pointless. You'll be the first to go, Princess of Moonlight. At his words, Ceres' eyes widened, as if something had just clicked. But before she could act, a powerful wave of aura struck her, knocking her unconscious. We all moved to rescue her, but not a single attack got through. Not only did he withstand every blow, he simply tossed Ceres behind him and advanced toward us. Whenever Danzo attacked, he'd just fling him away, then beckon him forward again as if playing with a child. Selena kept unleashing spells, and though she was the only one who had somewhat affected him, we weren't able to capitalize on her efforts. Even Ghost, despite his relentless shadow attacks, failed to land a decisive strike. As for me, I stood at the back, watching everything unfold with hawk eyes. I absorbed as much information as possible, trying to piece together the situation. But this wasn't a battle. This bastard had been toying with us from the start. If he had wanted us dead, we'd be corpses by now. And yet, there were still too many unanswered questions. And I intended to answer them. Gripping my sword tightly, I whispered under my breath. Ascension. Chapter 95. Darkness Within 1. The ironclad stood motionless, watching the young man relentlessly throwing punches at him. Dozens of silver fists struck the invisible barrier surrounding him, sending shockwaves carrying a ton of force. This brat just won't stop. With a flick of his wrist, Danzo was sent flying once more, fresh blood staining his body. Yet, within seconds, he was back on his feet, charging in again. Just how much endurance does he have? The ironclad's eyes flickered, scanning the shadows slithering around him like a snake. The son of mist. He hasn't shown his true abilities yet. He's waiting for the perfect moment to eliminate me, the mindset of a perfect assassin. I can't see him, but I can feel his eyes trying to dissect me, like a predator eyeing its prey. Suddenly, a sharp headache struck him. Something was distorting his senses, attempting to manipulate his perception. His thoughts immediately turned to the most dangerous person among them. Selena, the witch. Magic defied logic to such an extent that even his absolute defense struggled against her intricate spells. This generation is different. Every few years, a new wave of talents emerged, ones destined to lead the future. Each generation had its strengths and weaknesses, but this one was something else. The children standing before him were small monsters, ones that would someday bare their fangs and carve their names into history. The ironclad was already satisfied with what he had seen. Now, all that remained was to confirm what he had come for. Amid the relentless barrage of attacks, everyone slowly came to the same realization. This battle was going nowhere. Their opponent was toying with them, yet, for some reason, he hadn't killed them. Selena was the first to point this out, using her magic to relay her voice to everyone. I hate to say this, but this isn't an opponent we can hope to defeat. Danzo scoffed the moment he heard her words. That doesn't matter. As long as I can stand, this fight isn't over. His reasoning was absurd. Right now, his body wasn't moving because of logic, it was moving because of emotion. Ever since their last battle inside the temple, he had grown sick of standing on the sidelines. Are you insane? Look at yourself. You're covered in blood. And you haven't even landed a single hit. Shut that damn mouth of yours. Danzo clenched his teeth and charged again. I'd rather die than back down now. They were just words, but he meant every single one. Selena sighed in frustration. I'm not telling you to retreat. I'm saying this fight is pointless. The best course of action is to bypass him and regroup with the upperclassmen. Or find the rancor, Jane. Ghost's voice came through next. And do you think a monster like that will just stand by and let us do as we please? Ghost was the best among them at assessing an opponent's strength, and his next words left an unpleasant taste in their mouths. I can say with certainty that this guy is using no more than 10%, no 5% of his full power. Silence. Running isn't an option. Selena rubbed her forehead, weighing their dire situation. Then what exactly are we supposed to do? Just then, she saw it. The red eye behind the ironclad's mask snapped toward her with alarming intensity, sending chills down her spine. But she quickly realized he wasn't looking at her. He was looking at something, or rather, someone behind her. She turned around slowly. Fry Starlight stood there. You! For some reason, she saw him in a different light. His presence had completely shifted. His expression was void of emotion, his aura cold and subdued, while his eyes glowed with a faint violet hue. He spoke in a quiet, almost mechanical tone. Answer my question. What are the conditions for the teleportation spell you used earlier?
No introduction. No explanation.
Fry had cut straight to the point, asking about the variability. Selena used to swap places with her suitcase when the ironclad tried to pull her in. She frowned, not understanding why he was asking this now. Why are you asking that? What does it? If you want this to end, answer my question. Don't make me repeat myself. He cut her off immediately, his empty gaze piercing through her. Selina scowled before reluctantly complying. If he had a way to end this, it was worth trying, better than standing around with no plan. My technique only works on objects marked with my signature, like that suitcase. As long as my magic is active, I can swap places with it anytime. I can also transfer anyone I touch. She explained patiently. Fry nodded, as if he had already known but simply wanted confirmation. That's all I needed to hear. At that moment, the ironclad had knocked Danzo away and was already stepping toward them. But Fry ignored him completely. Then, he did something no one expected. He moved forward and wrapped his arms tightly around Selina. Her mind blanked for a second before she instantly erupted. What the hell are you doing? She struggled, trying to shove him away, but Fry was far stronger than her physically. Yet what truly sent her into a panic wasn't his sudden embrace, but what he planned to do next. No way! Selina's face turned pale as Fry stomped the ground, launching both of them off the train. Everyone's eyes widened as they saw Fry and Selina plummet into the abyss below. Even the ironclad, despite his composed nature, let out a sharp yell.
No.
Without hesitation, he leapt off after them. Danzo and Ghost watched, their faces twisted in confusion. Wind howled past Selina's ears as she screamed. Her mind was in turmoil as she saw the ground rushing toward them at a terrifying speed. Instinctively, she tried to activate her magic to teleport them back to safety. But the moment she did, a dreadful realization struck her. My magic isn't working? As if in response to her thoughts, Fry gently placed a finger against her lips and whispered into her ear. Not yet. Selina felt as if everything that had happened so far was nothing more than a dreadful nightmare. After all, the young man clinging to her remained eerily calm, his expression unchanged despite the terrifying speed of their fall. Even stranger, somehow he was suppressing her magic. She clenched her teeth, staring at his face just inches away, realizing that her fate was now entirely in his hands. All of this had happened in less than 5 seconds, and in just a few more, the ironclad appeared above them, plummeting toward them at an alarming speed. At that moment, something inside Selina reawakened as Fry whispered once more. Now! With a single word, Selina's magic flared, and in an instant, both of them vanished, leaving behind nothing but a suitcase. Frey's timing was flawless. The ironclad's hand had been moments away from seizing them. He stared in disbelief at the suitcase as it crashed onto the ground and shattered into pieces. Realizing what had happened, the ironclad turned and shot back toward the train, having been thoroughly deceived. Above the train, Selina and Fry reappeared out of thin air. The moment her feet touched solid ground, Selina collapsed onto her knees, gasping for breath after the insanity of the past few moments. Her wide eyes darted to Fry Starlight, who still carried himself as if nothing had happened. In fact, he drew his sword and pointed it toward a specific spot. For someone so desperate to kill us, you sure jumped after us in a hurry. Do you really want to do it with your own hands that badly? His words and blade were aimed at the ironclad, who had already returned. You little brat. The ironclad's gravelly voice rumbled from beneath his mask. Fry had successfully provoked him. Mirage. Without warning, Fry moved. In the blink of an eye, 30 identical copies of him materialized, attacking the ironclad from every direction. Dozens of black slashes rained down on the energy barrier surrounding him. But just like before, none managed to pierce through his impenetrable armor. His aura, his control over it has improved drastically. What the hell is going on with this kid? The ironclad's thoughts swirled in chaos. Everything had changed. But the result remained the same. His opponent was still far weaker than him. Before long, all of Frey's clones faded, nothing more than afterimages dissolving into nothingness, leaving behind only the real one. Fry now hovered above the ironclad, his sword pulsing with an overwhelming surge of dark aura. 10,000 shadow steps. Infinite darkness. Sensing the same attack from before, the ironclad scoffed beneath his mask. This again. Gravity intensified around him as he raised his hand toward Fry. Stronger than last time, I'll admit, but still nowhere near enough to affect me. He was right. Fry knew that better than anyone. True. And yet, just as his sword's darkness surged to its peak, Fry propelled himself forward, soaring past the ironclad entirely. But I wasn't aiming at you. At that moment, Frey's true intentions were revealed. The person his sword was aimed at wasn't the ironclad. It was the sleeping girl behind him. Had the ironclad not been wearing a mask, his expression would have been an unreadable storm, a mixture of shock, horror, and fear. No! Frey's devastating strike tore through the air, hurtling straight towards Saris Moonlight. And in that instant, the ironclad stopped playing around. Tearing through space itself, he moved. In a blur of sheer power, he broke through Frey's strike, shattering his sword and sending him crashing into the distance. But in doing so, by standing in front of Saris and shielding her like that, he had revealed his true intentions completely. The ironclad's furious gaze locked onto Fry, who lay sprawled across the rooftop. And behind him, the girl remained untouched. There was no denying it. Fry Starlight's attack would have killed Saris. That was how far he was willing to go. What the hell is happening? Is he protecting her? Danzo's voice was hollow with disbelief as Ghost appeared beside him. Looks like something's at play here. Something we don't yet understand. Selena remained frozen on the ground, her gaze flickering between the ironclad and Fry Starlight. The latter had begun forcing himself up, his body soaked in fresh blood. He clutched his head tightly. The cold, unreadable look from before had vanished, replaced by a sardonic smirk. This pathetic charade ends here, Heisenberg. Barely able to stand, the young man's words rang with weight. Heisenberg, one of the 3 strongest warriors in the Moonlight family. Selena's voice trembled in disbelief.
Impossible.
Chapter 96. Darkness Within 2. Heisenberg was an SS-ranked calamity, a living war machine. Could such a legendary figure truly be standing before them? But while Selena was trapped in her own shock, Fry didn't care in the slightest what they were thinking. His piercing gaze remained fixed on the towering figure before him. You almost had me fooled. His voice was calm, steady. Throwing civilians off the train, the explosion, the assassination attempt. You played your role well. A short sigh escaped him, irritation flashing across his bloodied face. You might have succeeded, if only you hadn't directed your killing intent solely at me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, finally, a deep voice shattered it. The ironclad raised his hand to his mask, slowly removing it, revealing the face of a man with a thick white beard and a terrifying gaze. A jagged scar marred one of his eyes. His snow-white hair contrasted starkly against the crimson glow of his remaining iris. Indeed, his voice was heavy. My name is Glenn Moonlight, but most know me as Heisenberg. With that, Heisenberg let his mask fall to the ground, its metallic echo swallowed by the night. Then, with slow, deliberate steps, he began walking toward Fry. From the very beginning, this was a test, a trial devised by the Moonlight family to gauge the strength and intelligence of new arrivals. His words crashed into them like thunder. Ghost, Selena, Danzo, all were left shaken. Everything was preordained, from the explosion to the train's fall. Every single event was meticulously orchestrated. It all made sense now. They had survived not because they were lucky, but because they were meant to. If Heisenberg had truly wanted them dead, he wouldn't have needed more than a second. Before, Saris hadn't recognized him immediately, because he was the one who handled the family's dirtiest work, the enforcer who operated in the shadows. Unlike the rest of his kin who wielded ice, he had become the perfect weapon. The trio was about to speak, but Heisenberg wasn't finished yet. With his towering frame nearly 2.5 meters tall, He stood before Fry Starlight, who, for the first time in a long while, wore a truly grim expression. What I'm about to do has nothing to do with my family. This is my decision alone. As the last word left his lips, a crushing force erupted from Heisenberg's body, unleashing the full power of an SS ranked awakened. A pressure so immense that it locked everyone in place, paralyzing them where they stood. His massive frame loomed over Fry, his gaze cold and unwavering. He replayed everything that had led up to this moment. He weighed his options, and he knew without a shred of doubt there would never be a better chance than this. To eliminate this nuisance, a pest who had done far too much, learned far too much. They had barely managed to orchestrate this opportunity, even with the Starlight family's cooperation. And yet, that boy had surpassed every expectation. He had played him, one of the strongest elders of the Moonlight family, a warrior who had spent a lifetime on the battlefield. And so his mind was made up. Goodbye, Fry Starlight. Time slowed. Heisenberg unleashed a strike infused with the full might of a man standing at the very peak of the world. Fry Starlight watched it approach, his sharp, hawk-like eyes swirling with turbulent thoughts. He's really going to do it? For the first time, the young man truly grasped just how reckless, how naive he had been. He had assumed this would end the moment he exposed his opponent. He had convinced himself that Heisenberg wouldn't kill him. Not in front of Ghost. Not in front of Danzo and Selena. That was the logical conclusion. That was what he had planned for. But now, he found himself closer to death than ever before. Wounded, his temporal ascension expired. His body in the worst possible state. What now? What now? What now? What now? What now? Heisenberg had already resolved himself to bear the blame. As long as Fry died, nothing else mattered. A man with that level of conviction. How do you stop him? The serpent tattoo on Frey's left arm burned fiercely, sensing the overwhelming danger. I can't block it, even if he gave it everything. Even if he summoned Balerion. I can't survive this. Even Balerion itself was sending desperate signals. Live. Run. Do something. And at last, Fry Starlight realized there was no way out. No matter how desperately he searched for an answer in those fleeting moments, none came. There was only death. Or so he thought. In an instant, death whispered. The roles reversed. Reality itself shattered. What is this? Heisenberg's devastating punch, one that should have obliterated Fry, stopped mere centimeters from his face. His eyes widened. A strange force had intervened. Frey's body was cracked, glowing with intricate lines of pulsating violet light, like a cocoon holding something else. It lasted only a fleeting moment, but Heisenberg had seen it. A shadowy figure, something shielding Fry, something embracing him, as if cradling a fragile child. Heisenberg couldn't even see the blood that should have splattered from his fist, because the moment he made contact, his once mighty hand had been reduced to nothing more than a mangled, bloody pulp. It all happened in the blink of an eye. Fry collapsed unconscious, his eyes still wide open in shock. And that force, that presence, the one that had gripped Heisenberg's very soul in terror, vanished, leaving him standing there, frozen in disbelief. Even the searing pain in his ruined hand failed to register. One thought echoed in his mind. What just happened? Had he, an SS-ranked warrior, truly been stopped by a boy who hadn't even reached C rank? And more importantly, what was that thing? A moment of hesitation was all it took. Dozens of black threads shot forth, coiling tightly around Heisenberg's massive frame. Ghost materialized before him, silent and menacing. Danzo, moving just as swiftly, had already pulled Frey's unconscious body away. Both had seen it, but there was no time to question what had just transpired. They had one priority: saving Fry. As for Heisenberg, for the first time in his life he felt it. Not just wariness, not just suspicion. True, absolute certainty. Fry Starlight was dangerous. Not just a potential threat, a definite one. A risk that had to be eliminated. Now, his power surged as he launched himself forward, intent on finishing what he started. But before he could move, he stopped. No, he froze. Not by choice, by force. Half of his body was suddenly encased in an unnatural, magical frost. And then, a voice rang out. A voice only he could hear. That's enough, Glenn. I can't turn a blind eye any longer. Heisenberg's breath hitched. He knew that voice. Instantly. And a chill that had nothing to do with the frost ran down his spine. Lord Baylor. Baylor Moonlight. The head of the Moonlight family. He wasn't even there. He was in the distant Moonlight Manor, far from this battlefield. And yet, his presence had reached them effortlessly. His voice resonated with the weight of an undeniable force. A mere glimpse of what the rulers of the great families were truly capable of. We, the ancients, are the pillars of this world. We have lived through the past, carried the present, and shall pave the way for the future. Baylor's tone was calm, absolute. Glenn, I let you act as you pleased, but you've crossed the line. Your old bones are no longer suited for handling this generation. Seated upon his grand throne, Baylor Moonlight smiled. A knowing, almost amused expression, as though gazing directly at the unconscious boy. The grudges of this generation shall be settled by its own heroes. All we must do is watch. But, Lord Baylor, my decision is final. Baylor's words left no room for argument. Glenn Moonlight, withdraw. No matter how much Heisenberg wished to resist, he couldn't. Gritting his teeth, he lowered his head. As you command. From the depths of Moonlight Manor, Baylor Moonlight chuckled. As he rose from his throne, a quiet murmur left his lips. I've witnessed something truly fascinating today. Chapter 97, Moonlight Family, 1. Fry Starlight's POV. Darkness, endless and absolute. It felt as if I were sinking into a vast, pitch-black ocean, untouched by even the faintest glimmer of light. My body no longer felt like my own. My mind was clouded, intoxicated by a strange haze. Each thought weighed heavier than the last, dragging me deeper into the abyss. Drowsiness overtook me, a powerful urge to sleep, but I resisted. A terrible fear gnawed at me. What if I closed my eyes and never woke up? How did I even end up here? The last thing I remembered was Heisenberg's fist, coming down with the force to erase me from existence. And then darkness. Could I be dead? No, I refused to accept that. For someone who once considered ending it all, I was clinging to life with an almost pathetic desperation. The irony wasn't lost on me. I don't want to die, not now, not when I finally have something to live for. Not after I finally grasped a sliver of hope. Maybe I was too lost in my thoughts to notice him at first. The figure standing beside my floating body. The void around me was absolute, so dark that black was the only color that existed. And yet, somehow I saw him, or rather I saw his silhouette, a shadowy figure, unfamiliar. With great effort, I parted my lips, struggling to speak the words trapped in my throat. I wanted to ask, "Who are you?" But no sound came out. Instead, the figure simply stood there, watching me for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice unfamiliar, yet strangely comforting. Sleep. How odd. He told me to do the very thing I had been resisting. Normally, I would have fought against such an order. But I didn't. His voice carried an inexplicable warmth, an undeniable sense of safety. I didn't hesitate. I didn't resist. I simply closed my eyes and let my consciousness fade. For some reason, he felt familiar. Slowly, my senses returned. Faint noises brushed against my ears, soft at first, almost soothing. But then, the sound swelled into a deafening roar, threatening to split my skull. I opened my eyes. Completely different place. A sharp chill seeped into my body, stiffening my muscles. My back pressed against the frozen ground, and as I reached down, my fingers brushed against cold, untouched snow. I was sitting atop a massive, snow-covered plateau. Leaning against a large rock, I gazed downward at the scene unfolding below. A massive crowd had gathered, their voices blending into an unintelligible clamor. Beside them lay the wreckage of a ruined train, now nothing more than twisted metal and shattered debris. The sheer number of people was staggering, men, women, and children of all ages. It reminded me of the train station, the chaos, the crowds. "You're finally awake." If he hadn't spoken, I wouldn't have even noticed him. Ghost stood beside me. With great effort, I forced myself upright, my body sluggish and uncooperative. Fortunately, Ghost was considerate enough to support me. Ugh! How long was I out? Not long. An hour, to be exact. Just an hour? I blinked in surprise. It had felt like an eternity in that abyss. I could have sworn I had been gone for a whole day, at least. Ghost studied me for a moment before turning his attention to the restless crowd below. "In the end, you were right. This was all a test by the Moonlight family." I nodded weakly. "And them?" I gestured toward the crowd. "The passengers who were thrown off the train earlier. Turns out they were in on this from the start. They landed safely, no casualties." At the mention of death, Ghost's gaze flickered toward me, his expression unreadable. "Fry Starlight, you were the only one who truly faced death in this test." I let out a quiet, breathless chuckle. "I suppose a lot of people want me dead. Then leave. Don't go to that family." Ghost had a point, a logical one, but I shook my head. "I can't." I had to keep moving forward. The Moonlight family was a mountain standing in my path, a colossal obstacle towering over me. But I had no choice but to climb it. If I wanted to survive in this world, I had to. Something in my gut told me so. Besides, I knew one thing for certain. Baylor Moonlight, the head of the family, didn't want me dead. If he did, I wouldn't still be breathing. But that fact alone was what had made me arrogant and naive before. Baylor Moonlight was a titan, a force on par with entire guilds. But he wasn't the only monster in that family. There were always exceptions, and Heisenberg was one of them. At the mere thought of that old man, my expression darkened. "Glenn Moonlight, Heisenberg, this isn't over. I always repay my debts many times over. Your killing intent is leaking, Fry Starlight." Oops. I always forget to restrain myself at times like this. Apologies. My mind isn't in the best state right now. Ghost remained silent, but his expression spoke volumes. I let out a defeated chuckle. "I know you want to ask. Go ahead, I don't mind." He hesitated, but in the end, he asked anyway. "Back then, we were all frozen. When Heisenberg revealed his true strength, people like us had no choice but to sit and watch. I can say with confidence that he was serious. But you survived. How?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know. It was just as shocking to me as it was to you. All I remember is a strange force wrapping around me. And then, nothing. Could someone else have interfered to save you?" I rolled my eyes slightly at his theory. Maybe. That possibility was unlikely. After all, that power had come from within me. "You finally woke up, huh?" Danzo emerged from below the hill, exhaustion evident on his face. "Hey, you walking corpse. Didn't I tell you to call me when he woke up? Why didn't you?" "I never agreed to that in the first place. I have no idea why you assumed I would." "Bastard." The moment they met, Danzo and Ghost immediately started bickering again. This was bound to happen when two people with completely opposite personalities crossed paths. Enough of that. What happens now? I was genuinely curious. Were we just supposed to stand around in the open and wait? About that, I heard that woman, Jean or Jane or whatever her name was, say we'd be transported soon. Transported? As soon as the word left my mouth, a strange cry echoed in the distance. "Look! Over there!" Someone in the crowd shouted, pointing toward the sky. In the distance, dark figures soared through the air, momentarily blotting out the sun. A bird? Or a plane? Danzo squinted, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. But I had already figured it out thanks to my hawk eye. Wyverns. What? Moments later, the winged creatures descended far enough for everyone to see them clearly. They were the closest thing to dragons, massive black bodies with striking blue wings. These creatures were common in the northern Nightmare Lands, but what set them apart was their ability to be tamed, evident by the humans riding atop them. When you said they'd be transporting us, this isn't what I had in mind. One by one, the wyverns descended from the sky in a breathtaking display. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, the members of the Moonlight family dismounted, one after another. The sheer pressure emanating from them left no doubt. They were far from ordinary. Chapter 98. Moonlight Family, 2. I needed to adapt my plans faster than expected. After all, there was a high chance I had just become a target. For now, I had to stay low. A short distance away, Jane stepped forward to welcome the Moonlight family's representatives. Leading them was a young man who appeared to be in his mid-20s. His sky-blue hair cascaded down his back, his sharp eyes exuding confidence. He was almost unnaturally handsome, with a well-built physique draped in pristine white robes. That demeanor, that arrogance, I recognized him immediately. Jane removed her sunglasses, greeting him with a polite smile. "Welcome, young Master Frost." The mere mention of his name made the entire crowd pause for a breath. "So that's Frost Moonlight," Ghost muttered under his breath, while Danzo tilted his head. "Frost who? Who the hell is this guy?" Ghost and I turned to Danzo, equally baffled by his question. "You seriously don't know him?" Even I, someone who wasn't originally from this world, recognized him immediately. Danzo simply shrugged. Why should I? Neither of us had a response. Fortunately, Ghost took it upon himself to explain. Frost Moonlight is the son of the current lord, Baylor. He's one of the most talented individuals in the Moonlight family, second only to Ceres. He was the top-ranked disciple at the temple and won the Victoriad 3 times. Despite being only 24, he's already on the verge of reaching S-class. There's a lot more to say about him, but that's the most important part. Impressive, I guess. Our eyes returned to the young man in question. His gaze swept across the crowd before settling back on Jane, who stood before him. "Well done, Miss Jane. We're ready to leave whenever you are. Sort the students as you see fit, and let's go." "Understood." Jane responded swiftly and began organizing everyone. That settled it, we were leaving on Wyvernback today. I tried to remain unnoticed, but in the end, it was futile. I could feel a pair of piercing eyes locking onto me, scanning me from head to toe. Frost had already noticed me. Exactly what I had hoped to avoid for as long as possible. After all, that man was infatuated with Ceres. And speaking of the devil, just moments ago he was practically radiating killing intent toward me. But now, I saw him standing beside Ceres, his expression softening with warmth. "It's been a while, Ceres." Even his tone was different, gentler. Could a person really change this much for just one individual? As always, Ceres responded with her signature cold indifference, giving him a slight nod. "Hello." The two of them entered their own conversation, but I tuned them out completely. The last thing I wanted was to listen to that arrogant bastard fawn over that ice-cold statue. I had more important things to worry about, like finding someone to ride with. After all, I was willing to bet that every Moonlight member here despised me. I remained where I was as everyone else formed their groups. Yet, to my surprise, I wasn't alone. "What the hell are you two still doing here?" I turned to Ghost and Danzo, who were still arguing beside me. Hearing my question, they both responded in unison. "What? Aren't you going to find a group?" They exchanged glances before Danzo spoke, looking puzzled. "What are you talking about? We already have a group." He gestured between himself, me, and Ghost in that order. "Me, you, and this corpse, though I have a hard time considering him a living person. Were they seriously planning to stick with me? You sure about that?" Before they could answer, a soft voice interrupted us. We all turned toward the girl hiding her face beneath a wide-brimmed hat. You might have trouble finding a ride if you stay around him. It was Selena. Danzo scoffed, his face twisting in disgust. Whatever. I don't abandon my comrades. Besides, I'm starting to hate that dumb family anyway. Selena chuckled at his words, making a vein bulge on his forehead. Something funny? She waved her hands dismissively, still smiling. Not at all, in fact. I'm here because I want to join you. She turned to me after saying that last part. Do you mind? I studied her for a moment before sighing. I don't know why everyone treats me like the leader, but I don't care. Do whatever you want. Just don't complain later. Selena ignored my warning, joining us with the same carefree grin. At this point, I was struggling to keep my composure. Too many main heroines, and each one was more stunning than the last. If not for the fact that they were all just 17, I might have lost it by now. Stay focused. They're just characters. This is just another world. None of this has anything to do with me. Nothing at all. As I tried to convince myself, time continued to slip by. One by one, people found their rides. The number of waiting groups shrank. But no one approached us. This isn't looking good. Selena was the first to voice the concern, while I simply shrugged. I told you not to complain. This is the price of forming a group with me. She had no comeback, just a defeated sigh. They really do hate you. Danzo, meanwhile, was losing patience. And as always, he needed someone to take it out on. Hey, aren't you missed, son? You're supposed to be important. Why isn't anyone coming for you? We all turned to Ghost. Danzo actually had a point. Ghost found himself at the center of our expectant stares. After a brief silence, he finally spoke. I keep a low profile all the time, so not many people actually know what I look like. They probably didn't even recognize me. Silence. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. Either way, it looked like we were stuck. At least, that's what I thought. Until a deafening roar tore through the sky. What the hell is that? Shouts erupted as a massive creature flew toward us. A closer look revealed a wyvern. But not just any wyvern. This one was so colossal I almost mistook it for a dragon. Its flight was erratic, as if it were fighting against something. No, someone. A few people were riding the beast, but they clearly hadn't tamed it yet. One person in particular kept punching it over and over. And then, within moments, that colossal creature came crashing down before us. I stood frozen, not because of the beast, but because of the one riding it. A terrifying woman stood at the forefront of the massive wyvern, landing another punch on its skull. How many times do I have to hit you before you learn to fly straight? You damn lizard? You can't train a wyvern like that. Shut it, old man. Who asked for your opinion? Miss Carmen, did you really have to pick the biggest one? You just don't get it, girl. Look at those other tiny lizards. None of them even come close. Now this is how you make an entrance. Haha. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Everyone stared at the bizarre trio. Dismounting from the wyvern were two women and an elderly man dressed in formal servant attire. Carmen still exuded the same overpowering arrogance, dressed in attire that suited a man more than a woman. Behind her, Vulcan, the butler, was, as always, getting bullied by the girls. And leading them all was my sister, wrapped in a black fur coat. The moment our eyes met, she gave me a sweet wave. I let out a helpless laugh. You guys, really? Chapter 99. Cursed 1. Ada. The moment she descended from the colossal wyvern, our eyes met. She had mentioned preparing a surprise, but I never expected this. Not her coming here. She must have taken a significant risk to do so. With Carmen and Vulcan by her side, she strode toward me, cutting through the dense crowd. Wow, who's that beauty? Danzo couldn't contain his reaction. For some reason, I felt an overwhelming urge to punch him. She's my sister. Your sister. So this is the current lord of the Starlight family. Selena spoke with genuine admiration, acknowledging the only female leader among the great families. It's been a while, Fry. Ada finally reached me, pulling me into a light embrace, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Then, just as quickly, she pulled back, maintaining a small distance between us. It really has been a while. I didn't expect to see you here, Ada. That much is obvious from your face. Did you really think I'd leave you alone? Ada lifted her gaze, scanning the people behind me. The moment she saw them, she smiled. Your friends. Something like that. She seemed pleased to know I had allies by my side. I introduced her to them quickly, but before I could react, that old hag struck me with a swift punch. You look better than the last time I saw you. Finally becoming a man. Ugh, Carmen. Still scrawny. I don't want to hear that from you. Carmen. It was best to stay off her radar for now. I sighed in frustration at the situation before turning back to Ada. So, how did this happen? Is it even safe for you to leave the family and come here? Yes and no. Yes and no. Ada tilted her head slightly, clearly avoiding the subject. We can talk about that later. For now, let's get out of here. Her words snapped me back to reality. Countless eyes were on us. We were the center of attention. Especially Frost. He seemed irritated by the entire situation but didn't voice any complaints. Not in front of the lord of another family. Either way, our situation had completely changed. From being the only ones without transportation to riding the largest wyvern of them all. Carmen leaped onto the beast's head, engaging in yet another struggle with it. But the poor creature had already endured enough, so it finally gave in. She's really enjoying this, huh? Following Carmen's command, the wyvern extended its wing, offering us a way onto its back. Come on, guys. We've got our own ride now. Danzo, Ghost, and Selena climbed up, but they sat toward the back, distancing themselves slightly from the rest of us. The reason was simple. There were things that needed to be discussed. So, what now? Wait. The old butler, Vulcan, raised a transparent barrier around us, one I assumed prevented others from eavesdropping. The moment he did, Ada sighed in frustration. I'm sorry, Fry. I couldn't stop it. I raised an eyebrow. Stop what? Carmen turned to look at Ada, who hesitated for a moment before answering. Your selection by the Moonlight family. Just as I thought. So it was planned from the start. Ada nodded reluctantly. As soon as we were informed by the temple about this training expedition, you and Snow Lionheart were our top priorities. But at the last moment, your name was removed. Most of what she said was something I had already deduced. To confirm the rest, I voiced my suspicion. That old man again? Ada nodded. Leonidas and his faction intervened at the last second. It was a bold move, and we couldn't overturn it since he acted at the perfect time. Carmen, still standing on the wyvern's head, frowned as she recalled that old man's interference. He's in league with the Moonlight family. They want you, kid. She turned to me, her expression serious. That incident between you and that girl happened a long time ago. I never thought they'd hold a grudge for this long. Fry, are you sure you didn't do anything else back then? Carmen's question caught me off guard. Had I done something else? The answer was no. But Fry had learned things he shouldn't have. That's all I knew, given that I wasn't entirely aware of what had happened back then. I didn't do anything. It was a long time ago, and I don't even want to think about it. She didn't seem convinced. Sensing the need for a shift in topic, I changed the conversation. Forget about the Moonlight family for now. What about Leonidas? Does he still want me? Even after I've stayed out of the spotlight. Carmen and Ada exchanged glances before Ada answered. The immortal lion remains a mystery. I know about his hatred toward you, so I tried diverting his attention to me, since I'm the one truly threatening his authority. But despite all my efforts, he's still obsessed with you. Carmen scoffed in irritation at the thought of that old man. Leonidas has always despised your family. 80 years ago, he lost a duel for the position of lord against your grandfather, Isan Starlight. Then, he was defeated again by Abraham Starlight, who was from a branch family and barely half his age. So I figured he had some kind of grudge against you, But now I don't understand him anymore. Their words made me realize something. Leonidas Starlight. This wasn't as simple as I had thought. Was there something else I didn't know that made him so determined to see me dead? I held my head, feeling the weight of the situation. An entire family wanted me dead, and an obsessed old man wanted the same. This was bad. I steadied myself and refocused on Ada. What mattered now wasn't my enemies, but my allies. Ada, back to our topic. Is it really okay for you to be here? Ada nodded. The Moonlight family is planning something for you, so I decided to visit them as a guest for a month. Your sister is the lord of a great family, standing on equal footing with Baylor Moonlight. Her presence alone will serve as a deterrent, at least to some extent. Slowly, the threads of thought wove together in my mind. Chapter 100. Cursed. 2. Could this be why Heisenberg tried to kill me early on? Because of Ada's arrival? I let out a dry chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Ada's presence would safeguard me in the future, yes, but it could have also been the reason for my death before. And beyond that, it didn't change the fact that she was risking her position to oppose Leonidas. I chose not to tell her about what happened on the train. I was grateful to her and didn't want her to feel burdened by guilt. Don't get the wrong idea, kid. This time it was Vulcan who spoke. It's not your sister who's in a tough spot right now. It's quite the opposite. What do you mean? A brief silence followed before the old butler explained further. With his latest move, Leonidas has backed himself into a corner more than ever before. The entire younger generation stands behind Lady Ada, and she controls over 90% of the family's operations. Aside from the family's elders, no one supports Leonidas. We are not lacking in any way. Vulcan then turned his gaze toward Carmen, who immediately understood his implication. Yeah, we won't lose in terms of combat power either. Carmen smirked, gesturing proudly toward herself. Because I'm here. Hearing this concise summary of the current power dynamics within the Starlight family, I finally began to grasp just how capable my sister truly was. Is that true? I directed my question straight to her. She seemed somewhat flustered by the direct praise. I wouldn't say we're completely ahead, but we do have the upper hand. Though, I have no idea what that old man might do in our absence. I nodded at her with a smile. At the very least, I now had solid backing. For the next hour, we discussed in detail what was to come for the Moonlight family, who I should be wary of, what actions I needed to take, and so on. Ada's presence would prevent them from making reckless moves, but that didn't mean they would simply surrender. The door to possibilities remained wide open. I was organizing my thoughts when suddenly, a strange sensation crept into my chest. I exhaled a small breath of cold air, feeling as though ice was seeping into my very core. What's wrong? Ada was quick to notice my state, but I waved her off. It's nothing. The air just feels a little cold. She scrutinized me for a moment, fully aware that this level of cold shouldn't affect people like us. Fortunately, she didn't press further. But I wasn't in any condition to reassure her. It felt as though an icy dagger was stabbing into my heart. And the further we moved forward, the worse it became. What the hell is happening to me? We're approaching Winterfell. Carmen's voice snapped me back to reality, alerting me to something important. This strange sensation, it coincided with our entry into the Moonlight family's domain. No way. Could this actually be happening? I need some time alone. I rose to my feet and stepped away from the group. There was something I needed to confirm. Without hesitation, I pulled out my laptop and accessed the system menu. I intended to ask about the issue immediately, but I didn't even have to, because a brand new list of missions had just appeared before me. Main missions. Survive the train mission 1000. Achievement points. Completed. Reach rank C before the end of the training period 1000 achievement points. Survive the Moonlight family's conspiracy 1000 achievement points. The list was unusually full this time, offering a considerable number of points. But none of these missions were what truly caught my attention. It was the fourth mission that appeared right below them. Cursed. You are cursed. Your fate is no longer in your own hands. Break free or embrace your demise. Reward 2,000 achievement points. Failure consequence. Death of the host. Time limit 30 days. I stared blankly at the words in front of me. I am cursed? A sharp pain throbbed in my head as I tried to process the information. When? How? It was impossible for such a powerful curse to be placed on me without my awareness. And if it had, then it must have happened a long time ago. Damn it, Fry! That useless idiot never failed to disappoint me. First, I had to deal with the mess he left behind. And now this? A curse? I found myself sinking into a whirlwind of thoughts. Setting aside the curse itself, I didn't even know who had cast it. How the hell was I supposed to undo it in less than 30 days? Worse than ever before, I was completely cornered this time. While Fry was drowning in his predicament, a pair of sharp eyes studied him intently. Selena's gaze shifted toward Danzo and Ghost, who sat beside her. Their journey had been lively with Danzo around. Even someone as silent as Ghost had spoken more than usual, giving her the opportunity to analyze their personalities more deeply. She was organizing her thoughts now. Danzo Smasher, strong physique and high endurance. Good potential, possibly exceeding S-rank talent. But he lacks anything truly unique, and he's far too straightforward. Not him. Her focus then turned to Ghost. Son of Mist, refused to reveal his true abilities even when facing an opponent far stronger than himself. Highly analytical and possesses unknown potential. His talent is at least SS rank. But assassins like him are merely tools for killing. Not him either. Finally, Selena's gaze returned to the black-haired young man with those chilling eyes. She recalled the moment he had thrown both of them off the train, and how he had then trapped Heisenberg right after. Fry Starlight, unknown abilities, unknown past. Possesses a power or artifact capable of sealing magic. Exceptional ability to navigate extreme situations, even managing to corner an SS rank awakened. Said his talent is only A rank. But what he has displayed is far beyond that. Selena's expression grew colder as everything began to align. The probability that he's the one they're after, 99%. At that moment, Fry Starlight had no idea that he was already surrounded from all sides.